Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of By the Numbers. It is the CSGO edition and it's brought to you by Alphadraft. I'm your host Richard Lewis, and joining me, as it happens every week we do the show. We've had some issues lately coordinating our times, but it is Duncan Thorin Shields. So how are you doing, Duncan?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. I'm kind of refreshed. I had a holiday this week. Unfortunately, because of that, the hotel internet, you never know how good it's going to be. And even when you don't know on the specific day, it can be variable by the hour, obviously, when you're in a place like that. Cause you know what those hotels are like? They just have like one residential connection that the whole hotel shares. So if some fellow from whatever country he might be is watching pornography of any particular kind, that takes a lot of the internet's resources. Maybe you can't do a topical CSGO news show.
Yeah, maybe you can't. Maybe you can't. And I'm having a good time. I'm still in America, as you can see. I'm sat here in the green room over in Vegas. Been enjoying it out.
What are you doing?
Just chilling. Just chilling.
Okay,
you know,
okay.
I believe there was a song by a very obscure sort of 90s new metal band called Head Planet Earth, where the lyrics from their classic song, Boom, How You Like That. I'm a rude boy. I've got everything I need: the sex, the power, the drugs, the American dream. So that's what I'm doing out here, pretty much. It's awesome. So it's a bumper edition, loads to talk about news-wise. I think we should start with Katowice, because obviously last time we did a show, we didn't actually talk about the games. We just talked about the clusterfuck around the organization of it, which is very interesting, actually. I do want to make this point. And I think we didn't really hammer it home, but I do want to make this point. I did find it a little bit weird how, like, in the aftermath, the aftermath of the event, when all that sort of self-congratulatory dick stroking and backslapping all occurred, ESL again managed to make it seem like it was a perfect event with no hitches whatsoever.
Unless I'm mistaken,
it's amazing.
Wasn't the last show before the event started even? I don't know if we discussed any of the event.
No, we did. If memory serves me correctly, which it might not, because obviously I've been in a frenzy of some kind.
Up now, as far as I can tell, the last show was on March 2nd, which I'll just check how far that was into it. That's when the event started, actually, March 2nd. So I guess at most we could have only discussed day one. Yeah,
we did. We discussed day one and some of the problems that the event had faced. There was obviously the issues about the PCs. I think we talked about some scheduling issues. There was, and of course, I'm pretty sure we did talk about the crowd and I don't know, some of the other problems.
I'm confused now. How could that be?
I don't know.
Because the problem is that crowd stuff wasn't until day 3, I think.
Maybe, it's like some sort of ayahuasca flashback.
Okay, you're just experiencing it now.
Yeah, and I'm exactly, because time is a flat circle, so I'm told. Yeah. So but anyway, let's just.
Do you have any revelations then? Well, now we've got you in this mood where you're tapping into like the prescient aspect of your personality. Do you have any sort of predictions as to what's going to happen in the future and what we should look out for?
FaZe are going to be a good team. And they're going to finish above Virtus Pro in every league that they compete in. Wow. Winning my bet. So.
Well, luckily for that event, at least, IEM Katowice, I got you on that one, mate. So
yeah, true that.
I mean, admittedly, I look at the rest of the former VP. I'm not feeling that great about the bet at the moment, but.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, right, let's come down from talking to the ephemeral, electric, phantasmal blue people that you commonly see on ayahuasca and DMT, and let's actually just talk about the event. So just to summarize it, you did a video.
You say ephemeral blue people, that obviously reminds me of the Watchmen movie. But actually, the Watchmen movie also kind of reminds me of a lot of those esports comments. Just a bunch of dicks on the screen unnecessarily,
I like that. People say the same about us, though, of course. So let's not hammer that simile or analogy too hard. So let's talk about what you did a video on it. I'm pretty sure I wrote an article about it over at Breitbart because I thought it was important to chronicle what happened. But just to give people a summary on the sort of when it got to the business end of the tournament, when it got to the semifinals. There were some issues with the crowd. People were getting up and leaving because there were huge delays and it was getting late. The food at the venue was subpar. I believe shitty hot dogs was a term that was bandied around, and people went out to get food. And then when they tried to come back in the venue, the greatest fans in the world, of course, were prevented from entering into the venue to watch the game, which led to this surreal situation of a empty stadium. And of course, think about what ESL have been, trumpeting about for the longest period of time, about how we fill stadiums and we have these great atmosphere events. And of course, at Cologne, absolutely true. One of the best atmospheres I think I've ever experienced at an esports event. And here we are. We have a fucking empty stadium. Not only that, of course, you've got casters who are incredibly tired, having had an incredibly long day. But more importantly, you have players who had to be at the venue for 10:30 a.m., not finishing a competitive match until something like 3 a.m. local time, which to say that's suboptimal, I think is generous. Another word I would use is disgusting. So that's what happened at IEM Katowice. So give me your take on it, because I'm amazed that a bigger fuss hasn't been made about this.
I mean, on the day there was a decent one, but then, as usual, ESL came out and they didn't say, well, we're really sorry about that. And here's the key thing. As usual, they were never wrong. They never just said the scheduling was wrong. We shouldn't have done the schedule that way. We've learned our lesson. Next time we'll do it. All they did was essentially be like, well, in fact, that flying DJ guy literally tweeted at me. He said, well, actually, Cluj-Napoca had 4 best of 3s on one day as well. And also, and another thing, like, how could you run it differently? And if you do it differently, then one of the quarterfinalists, if it's with the semifinals the next day, gets an advantage. And another thing, and another thing, and like, just basically, as usual, not really take responsibility. I think Carmack made a Reddit comment along the lines of like, they've maybe learned that more than 3 best of 3s in a day was too much. It's like, oh, have you learned it now? 15 years in? 15 years? Oh, which part about the 15th year do you think it was that ticked it over that maybe too much?
What I find amazing about it, though, is I seem to recall a story, and this just shows what I've said all along about team owners, right? I seem to recall a story broken by some young upcoming journalist called Richard Lewis, where there was this email that was circulating, and all the team owners in this email chain had bandied together to form a little backroom alliance where they actually said, we're doing it for the players. Didn't consult any players on it, of course, because why would they? Because they're owners, and players are just the new slaves, as Kanye West would say. We're not going to consult players, but we're going to lobby for player rights. Great job, guys. And they sent an email around saying, if we have to play in these conditions, we're not coming to your event. We will boycott your event. Now, boycotting an event if they had more than 1 best of 3 or best of 5 in a single day. That is a matter of public record that cannot be argued about. That is what they said they were going to do. And yet here we are again. When the big boys come and they have their event tours and they put these nonsensical schedules together that can't possibly work in a conventional sense and actually penalize successful teams and mean that we get suboptimal play in deep runs in tournaments, the team owners are like, yeah, but we're going to get the money, though. Yeah, but it's ESL and they always pay out, though. In 2016, they do. Yeah. So I don't understand how any tournament organizer, knowing that team owners have threatened that, would even run a schedule like that, because surely that could have precipitated a boycott. But of course, no one has any fucking principles because it's esports.
Also, the aspect of the flying DJ guy suggesting that like it was similar to Cluj-Napoca, it wasn't, because there's a key detail. Cluj-Napoca had 4 best of 3s in one day. Those were the 4 quarterfinal matches, so every match was different. After your game is finished, you can go. When your game is going to start last, you don't have to arrive until last at the venue. These were 4 best of 3s, where 2 of the teams played 2 best of 3s in the day. The people who won their quarterfinals had to then play their semifinals on the same day. So that's a very different scenario. You're going to be there much longer amount of time, and in theory, like, it's not as easy a turnaround either. And so another aspect that was problematic, I thought, was that when he compared it to Cluj-Napoca, well, here's why Cluj-Napoca did not have the same problem and did not go till 3 a.m. At Cluj-Napoca, the first game was the Fnatic EnVyUs one. That was a 2-1. The rest were all 2-0s, and NiP TSM was a quite quick 2-0 because they wrecked them completely. So actually, you're right. DreamHack could have fucked up and they could have had their tournament go till 3 a.m. But actually, they lucked out. Now, you not only didn't luck out, but you didn't get it as bad as you could have got it. Like, at this tournament, 2 of these matches were 2-0s, the 2 Fnatic games. So those ones could have gone 3 maps. Those could have gone overtimes. And that means it would have been like 6 a.m. local time it would have ended. That's the key point I always want to make here. This wasn't even as bad as it could have gotten. The schedule could have been worse than this. It could have been 6 or 7 a.m. finish. So obviously that's totally unacceptable. Then in terms of the crowd shit, this wouldn't be as sweet, Richard, if they hadn't gone on for years and years about how amazing the crowd is. Carmack has said on multiple occasions words to the effect of, the reason why I have to do this event in Katowice every year is because there's a special magic to that crowd that you just can't replicate anywhere else. We've never managed to replicate that anywhere else in the world. Great, by the way, implicating the fans at all your other events in China, America, wherever it might be. Lovely thing you're saying about those guys, even people in Cologne. But anyway, implying that like this crowd is more special, there's something about it that's better, then the very same crowd, first of all, most of them just left the event because Virtus Pro was out. They didn't give a shit about the rest of the tournament. You know that world-class tournament you have with some of the best teams? Yeah, they don't care. It's over. This was all the Virtus Pro show for them. And the ones who don't think like that, I'm sure there are ones who are very reasonable. I've heard these stories about people cheering for Fnatic at past tournaments, etc., and not just being biased to Virtus Pro. So let's talk about those fans. Those fans wanted to watch these matches. They were actually actively prohibited from watching them on the basis they'd left the venue. And what's the problem there? Well, if you had a ticket, surely they would let you back in, right? Well, that's the problem. Supposedly, even people with tickets didn't get back in. That's what people have said. Secondly, because of this stupid circus of having the event be free entry, but you have to queue up 7 hours, that means everyone was there. I was actually wrong here. I thought they were there from like 6 a.m. because that's what Carmack's tweet had said. I was told by people who went to the event, they started queuing at 3 a.m. local time. So that means some of them, if they had have stayed till the end, would have been up and at the venue for 24 hours of a day. So that's not only a bad scenario, you have, by the way, England was a tournament organizer. If someone has to be awake 24 hours, you have fucked up your schedule literally to the maximum. You have taken all of their waking hours. At that point, it is a new day. It is a short way to put it. When day 3 of your tournament lasts longer than a day, you have fucked up by default.
Yeah, I mean, look, and here's the other thing as well. You know, look, I'm not going to.
Where's the apology? Where's the massive statement?
Yeah, but we're very sorry. I actually reached out to ESL for a statement when I did the Breitbart thing and said, you know, I think you might want to comment on this, you know, because I'm going to write this thing and it's going to be less than complimentary. And contrary to popular belief, I do respect a lot of people who work over at ESL. I do maintain.
Your journalists can't fuck with Katowice. Your journalists can't fuck with Katowice. Did they say
over and over and over again? They did.
But to an incredibly sick beat, though. Very edgy.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was edgy as fuck. But no, they you know, and they just said, we don't think we really need to comment. You know, we think the successes sort of outweigh the negatives, which I guess is kind of true. But compared to previous Katowices and compared to
guys, you've got to break a few eggs to make an omelette. You've got to rape a few Viet Cong to win a one. Well, you didn't win that one. Shit. Next one. Iraq. We won that one, right, guys?
Jesus Christ. So the point is, they said that we feel the successes sort of outweigh the failures, and that probably is true. Okay, I mean, like, just on a grand scheme of things, it was a good event. We're going to talk about some of the games and some of the storylines, but let's talk about, you know, just this notion where I think what ESL need to be careful of is falling into the DreamHack trap. Now, the DreamHack trap, what I mean by that is there was stuff going on at DreamHack where production wasn't quite as good as it once was. They weren't quite as cutting edge. They were falling behind, you know, the people like MLG, this sort of thing, just in terms of raw production. And because it was DreamHack and they were like kind of like the crazy uncle of the family, no one was really talking about it. We weren't talking about it. You know, we didn't want to haul DreamHack over the coals. And the same with like looking after talent and all that stuff backstage. There was this clear decline in standards for anyone that worked an event. I think for people watching the event, if we were being honest about it. Now, we've had 2 ESL events where we've had problems. We've had the Barcelona event, we've had the Katowice event where it's been less than perfect. And I think ESL kind of saying, well, you know, the successes outweigh the failures. That's a real dangerous way to think, especially with TV companies.
Leader would say either.
Yeah, right. Like for me, I think that you know, you've always got to be looking to improve. You always got to be moving forward, and I think you need to own your fuck ups. And I can see the chat going, wow, you really go after DreamHack since they fired you. 1, DreamHack have never fired me. I've never been employed by DreamHack. 2, I was already kicking off just quietly, professionally, I believe is the word you fucking morons like to use, behind closed doors, because that's how you deal with things professionally. Now that there's no chance of a professional relationship, I'm more than comfortable talking very openly about the failings of that particular company. Anyway, moving on. I think, I think it is worrying. And I think ESL now have had 2 events where, in particular, the criticisms that they should be worried about aren't from people like you and me, right? They should be worried about the criticisms from professional players. I've talked to a lot of players who attended these last 2 events. I heard about the problems at Barcelona, in particular, with the hotels and the standards that people were going in and the PCs that they were playing on. I heard about similar problems at Katowice. I have talked to players who are very disgruntled with the ESL experience. And they need to be mindful about that because player union, it's coming. And it's not going to be team owners who are going, yeah, just give us one of them backhanders. Yeah. Just give us some of that 6 Skrilla and we'll make our players come and play in these conditions they don't want to play in. Those days are coming to an end real fucking soon. And ESL need to be mindful of that because if players, professional, big names, want to come out and say, hey, we don't enjoy attending your events and actually we're thinking about not going, you need to watch the fuck out. Simple as that.
Plus, it's just in general, in this area, I find it very suspicious that they don't publicly make a statement and say, like, we did it wrong. And the reason why I say suspicious is because what I suspect is that they don't think they did anything wrong. They think they got unlucky and that this was the right way to do it. And as a result, look at the tweets by the guy, the Flying DJ, who was a head guy of ESL. He's essentially saying, we did not make a mistake. The schedule is fine. What we did was fine. And this was just like, whatever, misfortune, or it'll be better next time. So the key thing is they haven't learned from their mistake. It's not that they haven't learned, that they have learned, but we're going to keep it on the down low and just make it better next time. No. That's not what they're saying. I mean, here's how you know it's key, because there was a fuck up in the League of Legends side of thing at the same event. Okay, what happened was, you'll be amazed this could happen, but it did. I accidentally IEM broadcasted TSM, the League of Legends team's fucking comms from inside the game on like the Garena stream or something, like some foreign stream. So as a result, someone has a file, which everyone now has, we all downloaded it, where you can just listen to their whole comms during the game and how they shot call and what they were saying and everything like that, right? So when this was revealed on League of Legends, Carmack actually came out and he said, we're sorry about this. It shouldn't have happened. He explained how it happened. He explained what will be done differently in the future. He explained how it will be fixed and how he agrees it's not acceptable. So think of the contrast. They're not saying any of those things about this problem with all the best of threes and all that. In fact, the closest they came was Carmack making the comment, which I'll look if I can find it. It was something along the lines of, let's see. Okay, here we go. I've actually found it here. He said, okay, this is hilarious. So this is his Reddit comment in response to the IEM crowd thing where there was no crowd. So he says, I'll cut to the part that's the interesting part. He says, people left after the game, indeed. He's talking about the Fnatic vs Pro game. It visibly cleared out. I think the main thing was that sitting at an event for more than 6 hours isn't that appealing. The conclusion here is to do shorter event days, I think. So many hours is too much. Now, here's what's crazy about that. He's not actually there said that they're going to do less best of threes. That's the key thing you need to know. You have to be very detail oriented when you notice how these people speak elsewhere. He's purposely not said they're going to do less best of threes. He's just saying he agrees the day should be shorter. Well, great fucking concession there, mate. I think we all know that. Question is, how are you going to make it shorter? And so also, by the way, that part there is hilarious. Think about what you just said there. I think the main thing was that sitting at an event for more than 6 hours isn't that appealing. You've scheduled 4 best of threes. The minimum maps it can be is 8, mate. How's that going to fit into 6 hours? By your own logic, your entire event is invalidated. It can't ever work. Not only that, the group stage, remember, had 6 teams in it. And they're all playing like 5 games. You've just essentially said you can't have IEM events and that no one would want to sit through it. Do you even realize what you've said?
I mean, here's the thing as well, though. Like, what worries me so much about coming to that conclusion is that it's not ownership of a failure. It's saying, oh, we've now done this like research, like our event was a social experiment, and we've now gathered enough intelligence to realize that people in this industry don't want to sit for 6 hours out of a day at an event. Well, I beg to differ because I see other events where people happily do it. If the conditions are good, and you can get up and have a beer and have something nice to eat and come back, and there's gaps and there's breaks. You know, like I see people doing that all the time. I've been going to events for years and years and years. Now, do we need to look at shorter days? Sure. Do we need to look at you know, the way we structure tournaments? Sure. But none of that is predicated on the fans. None of that is predicated on the fans.
And if it's true, that bit about the food as well, right? If it's true that like the only food was shitty hot dogs, that's all. That you're actually then bordering on like inhumane conditions. If someone has to stay inside one building and eat shitty hot dogs for 3 meals, I think that's going above and beyond what should be expected from the best fans in the world. Yeah. I mean, I've heard that Polish cuisine's wicked. Why not get them some of the pierogi in? You know, those things that like Polish people invented and totally different from Chinese dumplings that the Chinese invented 2,000 years ago by wrapping some meat in a bit of fucking pastry. Copyright. Poland.
Dumpling game incredibly on point.
Incredibly on point.
So the thing is, right? Like, and again, we're doing that thing where it's like we're talking about the flaws and we're talking about the fuck ups, right? But here's the thing. Here's the fucking thing. Yeah. Do you remember when we did our last MLG event? What happened on Twitter? Do you remember?
What do you mean?
How DreamHack had like a little snipe at MLG. Remember?
Okay, what was it about though?
Oh, I know. Scheduling. Again, right? I think it was to do with the major schedule or something. Okay. And
I remember this actually.
Oh no!
What did they say?
Well, it was just something like we've got great concerns, or we've got concerns about how the schedule and whether you could fit that many, you know, best of threes into it or whatever. And then of course, and then all of this happens with Katowice.
Part of MLG, of course.
Exactly where I was going with this. And it's like, you know, I think the fucking issue is people would be way more forgiving of any mistakes if these people just if there just didn't seem to be this corporate culture of you can't criticize us, but because we're the industry leaders and the industry front runners and we've been bought by this media company, we're now going to come after you and criticize everything you do. That doesn't work for me. That seems hypocritical.
It's and also quite famous that ESL employees themselves criticize other events and things that are going wrong. Yet they get super mad if you criticize them.
All the time. You know, they sit in their little staff chat and they snipe at people, and then they work out the most passive-aggressive way to get on social media and snipe at the competition. And I just think it's really fucking pathetic. And no one calls them out for it. You know why? Because they're all afraid. They're all scared. They're all scared of the politics coming into play. And will we get hired or won't we? And, you know, it's like, we all know, for example, the reason you guys can't mend fences is because they want you to stop criticizing them before they'll give you an opportunity to hire you. Well, it just seems kind of like,
I know, hilarious bargaining tactics, right?
Yeah, right? Like criticism.
If you give us everything we want, then we might sort of consider maybe one day, possibly, not definitely, but could have a talk with you or something that might make your job.
Again, put that into context here, right? Like I actually broke the story about MLG getting the major in America. And I know it must have upset them that I did that and sort of stole their thunder a little bit. Still hired me, never had a conversation about it. You know, they never said, yeah, well, don't know if we could trust you at our events, Richard, with your muckraking and your bullshit. Never happened. It's almost as if there's companies out there in esports that'll just hire people based on their ability to do a job. And wouldn't that be awesome if we could get divorced from all this fucking retarded politics that holds the industry back? Wouldn't that be nice? And I think, you know, that's where industry leaders should start leading by example. You know, not fucking sniping at other people. And then whenever any criticism comes your way, no more mercy. This isn't fair. Like, fuck off. Like, in for a penny, in for a fucking pounding, you assholes. You can't have it both ways. So anyway, let's talk about some games.
Oh, by the way, I just want to say
final point.
Yeah. So here's one. So I'm sure that ESL, especially knowing sort of the company they are, like everyone else in esports, everyone in the esports industry has one clip that they love, okay? Which is that clip of the HON finals, where it takes place in this gymnasium and it's all dark and there's no crowd and the smoke machine's too much. And everyone, here's the thing, everyone in the esports industry laughs at this video and they go, ha ha, that was their world championship. Ha ha, what a stupid game. What an incompetent bunch of idiots. We have no mercy on them. Guess what, ESL? You had that moment in season 10. At your world championship in your home location that you think is the most magical special arena in the world. You had your moment there where your host had to come out and for his job go, and now, ladies and gentlemen, Fnatic, tick, 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 and 4 people. Yeah. That was the most cringy shit I've ever seen on an ESL broadcast. Like, you know, in the old days when ESL used to have the studio with 50 people in it, but they used to make it look good by doing a good camera shot. Good luck doing that, mate. I hope you pay that fucking camera guy extra. I love that shot, by the way. Just to fuck with Carmack, mate. Because, you know, listen, they like to prod me. Guess what? I prod back with a fucking sawn-off shotgun, mate. But anyway, double-barreled pump action fuck face. Now, here's the thing, okay? When Carmack opened the event, he made this comment and he said, it's every pro gamer's dream to play in this venue or at this event or some comment like that. So later on, someone took a screenshot of when everyone was left the venue. It was 3 a.m., right? And the casters are talking in their last desk. And behind them, there's just all these empty chairs. And they're just sat there in an empty arena analyzing the game. So I just posted something like, I posted it up, the picture, and I just said, it's every caster's dream to work at an event like this. And just put that picture up. So
it is. There's nothing like the fucking.
Nothing hurts more than reality.
Yeah. So listen, right? One last thing on this, right? And then I promise we'll talk about the games. You implied in your video, you know, League of Legends bias kind of fucked up Counterstrike, and you know, because they didn't feel like they could fuck with the schedule too much and expand it because, you know, League of Legends was present. And also as well, you know, you did make the point, which I've also heard, that one of the reasons why it wasn't a major is because obviously by having other games kind of sharing the limelight with what is ostensibly a world championship, maybe Valve wouldn't like that too much, which makes sense, you know. And certainly we know Riot don't like to share the limelight. That's the whole reason ESL 1 exists. So Dota 2 can go and play there, and I'm sure there are wonderful financial.
Don't forget, Carmack himself openly admitted that. In my interview, he essentially said, Riot didn't demand it, but why would I let my best customer have to share time with someone else? He actually just said that in that interview I did with him on Gamers a while ago.
So anyway,
when that site existed, had a URL and domain and all that old sort of stuff.
No, I remember that site. It was pretty good, right? Didn't some unscrupulous journalist completely fucking wreck it? Sort of
blue, I
can't. Thing is, there's no way he'll get a job though. His career's got to be over, right? So anyway, what do you make of it? Is there any you know, are ESL playing favorites to their favorite child? You know, while the red-headed stepchild of CS still gets fucking told to stand in the corner again.
I mean, it seems like they have to be, because one of the things with this event is, here's the thing. Here's my theory on this whole event, Rich.
Okay.
ESL, to me, my speculation, definitely thought this was going to be the major. They were planning months in advance, this will be the major, as it had been 2 years previously. When they found out it wasn't the major, what I think they thought was, shit, all these other events around that also have 200k prize pool, 250k prize pools. So if you're not a major, then there's no actual way to differentiate yourself. You just look like another really good event, and there'll be like 10 of those in the year, okay? So what they thought was, here's what we do. And this is a smart idea on paper. We'll make our event different by having a better format than the major. Because if you have the major, you have to have those groups of 4, and you have to have the randomizer on the maps, and you have to have a best of 3 only system. You can't have a best of 5 final. So they cleverly took a lot of the aspects of the majors that some people don't like, and they said, right, what we'll do is give a superior alternative. So we won't be a major, we'll be better than the major. So as a result, they came up with their old school IEM system, which is a group stage of 6 teams, and the winner goes to the semifinals. As a result, you play way more opponents, and you don't feel like you've gone out by losing 2 games like you can obviously do in those group stages. And you end up with a scenario where it's more of a world championship, like we'll have teams qualify from elsewhere. And then in the playoffs, We're going to have it where you get to skip around, and then in the final, it'll be a best of 5. All these factors that were really great. Problem is, they didn't have the schedule to run that. I mean, they're lucky there weren't problems on the other days when you had to play all those games. Like, I'm looking here on Group A. Let me have a look at how long this took to play. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. I think it's something like 15 games in each group. 15 best of 1s. Now, I assume they ran them parallel and something like that, you know, so that was the way to get around it. But, yeah, I think they ran 2 at a time. So, like 6 or 7 overall. That's untenable. So it's a great idea on paper. Problem is, that's a great idea if you've got the days to do it. Remember, the key thing here is it's not a Valve major, but it is an ESL major. As in, for ESL, this is their world championship. And one of the things that they've always presented it as, they're one of the event organizers that does pretend theirs are the only events that exist. If it's their event, their world champ, this is supposed to be the biggest event for ESL the whole year. So if it's your world championship in CSGO, and you're now, whether you are or not, but whether it looks like you're giving up special days and consideration to another game, it makes it seem like you don't care about CSGO that much. And it makes it seem like I actually thought that they were being cheap. Like, to me, I've always said this in the past about the IEM events that were in Poland. It's always seemed totally like what they did is, right, so the IEM budget in theory comes from Valve. Comes from Intel, obviously, rather. Intel is what I meant to say. Yeah. So Intel sponsors the tournament and gives them all that money. Well, here's the thing. From past tournaments, the theory on Riot Games was they give you the money for the tournament. I don't know if that's still the case, but if they are doing that, then you're already getting a load of money yourself because you've got the money from Intel to run the event. Riot's paying for their event. Now, what's happening here? In the past, when it was a major, Valve's paying for it. What the fuck is Intel paying for? Did they just keep the lights on and the shitty hot dogs running? What was Intel paying for? They used to pay for the whole thing.
Well, look, I agree. I think the future is we move away from events where we share all this space. Like, CS doesn't need to be fucking propped up by anything else. You know, this isn't like a StarCraft situation where the game's in a fucking terminal decline and it's like you simply couldn't justify the expense of running a StarCraft event by itself. You know, like we don't need to be on anyone else's ticket. For me, the best events are going to be CS events that are just CS, nothing else. I don't like it when events get hitched to expos. I don't like that. I don't like it. You know, I want the event to be the fucking main event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, could you imagine, like, I know, at a UFC event, and it was just like, part way through, they were like, we've got this, like, fucking, I don't know, trampoline competition halfway through. Everyone's like, what the fuck is this? Like, I want to watch Conor McGregor get knocked the fuck out. This is bullshit. So, obviously, I think the idea that there's going to be this overlap, and League of Legends fans and Counterstrike fans are like fucking day and night. Let's be fucking real. There's not a lot of overlap. The sad thing about the growth of Counter-Strike is, unfortunately, League of Legends fans have come into the scene and they're trying to apply their ridiculous standards to it. Somebody said I was bad for missing a headshot. The game must be changed. Like, no, fuck off. Get out of our game.
You're going to like this. Okay. I had a moment today where I realized why I love the CSGO community. So you notice you'll almost never see me shit on the CSGO community, even though they'll be critical of me sometimes or say stupid things. And obviously, in the past, when that whole Poland thing did happen 2 years ago, they were another of the communities that went ham on me and were like, this person should never work in esports. Admittedly, that's a very small percentage of who's in the CSGO community now, so it's not a problem in that sense. But one of the reasons why I never shit on the CSGO community is they are the realest community by far. Like, there was a post today, okay? It's on Global Offensive now. I won't say which one it is because I don't want people to just instantly go and, like, vote brigade it. But basically, the post was about something that happened in a GIF file, okay? And when I click the GIF file, it's a person just making a kill with a certain weapon, and that's the point he's making, okay? So here's the thing. I looked at the name that he had in the GIF that he's playing with in the game, and I thought, holy shit. And then I went to the Reddit comments, and I scrolled, and none of the top Reddit comments have anything to do with the name. Now, should I tell you what his name was that he was playing on his account while he killed someone? His name was The Negroes Within. Now, I love that in CSGO, no one even bats an eyelid. They're just like, well, sometimes you play on a name like that. Listen, you're having fun. It's all about getting in touch with your inner child.
Meanwhile, over in League, pro players are getting fucking fined for flipping the bird, right?
Oh, the best one ever, Richard. The best ever in League of Legends, because the community did this, not Riot, was at Battle of the Atlantic, which was in December of 2012. And it was a European leg and a North American leg. And the whole point is it was all the European, like, it was like number 3 European team plays number 3 North American team, okay? So in the 4th place match, you had Alliance play Dignitas. And this was the first game Alliance played, Froggen's super team, okay? And Alliance won so easily that when they had just about won the game and they were destroying the Nexus, they all stood in front of Dignitas's fountain and just pressed the laugh key and the laugh animation. There was such outrage from fans on Reddit that Alliance had to come out and publish an apology for pressing laugh, an animation you can do in the game for fun, because fans were like, this is unprofessional, outrageous. I didn't pay to see people doing this in 2015. Well, 2013 at the time. Like, we put a man on the moon so someone can laugh in a fucking video game in front of a fan. Like, that sort of level of like...
I remember it. I wrote a column about that, and I was trying to explain that, you know, trash talk is a fundamental part of sports. And then, of course, the NFL kind of fucked me up a little bit because they're now introducing where you can get fucking, you know, penalized for, you know, overly trash talk. It's one of the best things about NFL, holding the ball back. Yeah, you know, you all can't fuck with yay. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the best thing, right? Like, but yeah, so fuck League of Legends. Seriously, it's like, I don't know, Riot are clever in a sense that they somehow managed to create an environment where they were professing to, oh, this will actually make a nice environment for people playing. No one has fun playing that game. I've never talked to a pro, like a pro player. Do you enjoy playing solo queue? No, I fucking hate it. Like, I fucking hate my life. I hate everything about it. Do you enjoy being beholden to a company that has unrealistic standards for behavior? No, I fucking hate it. I hate my life. And who's having the fun in fucking League of Legends in this most popular game? They've created a perfect fucking misery simulator. And on top of that, they've made everybody so thin-skinned by this idea of positively reinforcing being like a salty little bitch every time someone says anything bad about you, that they come into other games and they think that's going to fly. Well, if it ever flies in Counterstrike, I'll have nothing to do with Counterstrike. Fuck that noise. I want my trash talking at half-time back, right? I want that back, Valve. I want that back. I want everyone flaming each other. I want trash talk. I want pros that can get in each other's faces and fucking scream at each other. I want teams to be able to say, we're going to go in dry in fucking interviews and no one gives a flying fuck, right? And if it ever changes, for whatever reason, fuck it, I'm donezo. So, yeah. Anyway, we can talk about the games now. So there was some good storylines that came out of Katowice, which the Ministry of Propaganda over at ESL has told me was a perfect event with no hitches. So where do you want to start? I mean, I guess we've got to talk about your other favorite topic. It's like your greatest hits at the moment. We've done ESL. Now let's talk about Brazil.
Bring it on.
Right. Well, fucking, that's what Luminosity did. Powered their way into being, I think, like a top 3 team in the world now. I think we can say as things stand. Obviously, form is temporary, class is permanent. We'll monitor the situation. But their story is absolutely amazing. I still remember DreamHack Winter. I remember it for lots of reasons, Duncan. But I remember it mainly because we spent a long time talking about how, you know, we weren't overly impressed with this roster change and to make it like 2 days before an event. It couldn't possibly work. They had a great run there. And they did it again in Katowice, getting to the final against Fnatic and had an incredible, I mean, the game against Na'Vi was fucking beast mode. One of the games I've really, really enjoyed so far this year. But they're the real deal now. There's no getting away from it. This is, like I say, a top 3 team. And I think it's a matter of time before we actually see them win an event. Now, whether they're going to have to avoid their kryptonite Fnatic to do it, I don't know. But they've proven to me, and I'm sure to you and to all the fans out there, they're capable of beating anyone right now. Except Fnatic.
I mean, they did beat Fnatic in the group in that one game, but yeah, it's obviously a best of 1. And to win the game, minimum, you're going to have to win a best of 3. And obviously in an event like this, a best of 5, which is a tall order against Fnatic. I think they're a top 3 team. For me, in terms of strength, I would say they're the 3rd best team in the world. Like, for me, it's Fnatic, Na'Vi, and then Luminosity. Now, I can already see some people whose brains are melting down. Like, wait a minute, how can they be 3rd if they were ranked 4th before in your ranking? it's almost like those rankings have like a massive 3-paragraph section at the beginning that explains that they're not actually my opinion. They're sort of like a rankings based on where you finish in tournaments and then who you've beaten and stuff like that. There's a difference between ranking over 3 months and who I think is the best today. You know what the difference with that is? One's called ranking for 3 months. One's ranking today. You see, the key part is the time element there. So today, I'd say they're the third best team in the world. Like, the obvious best team is Fnatic. That goes without saying. You can't really fuck with Na'Vi. Like, they had a bad tournament and they finished in the top 4 and were still very close to making the final. And that's with Guardian being uncharacteristically poor, which I heard. This is what amazes me. He didn't say this publicly. A little birdie told me he actually had some sort of injury and just didn't say anything publicly, which would certainly fit with what a phenomenal player he was in every other tournament. And then this one, he was suspiciously poor. So I still thought, I think I would still overall edge Na'Vi over them. But luckily, between the two of them, they're very close and they have a fantastic matchup, as we've seen. So yeah, the key thing with Luminosity is they're absolutely legit. Like when they had that first run at DreamHack Winter, if you remember, right afterwards was ESL, ESEA Pro League, like a couple of weeks later, and they didn't even make the playoffs of that. They bombed out. And so I initially thought, you know what? Maybe they had that sick run where no one's practiced against you before. No one's seen you with that new lineup. The map pool settles, people play you, and you don't end up making that far. Obviously, since then, they've been fire. They've been top 4 every tournament, make finals in a row. So it's great stuff at the moment. I think they're obviously very legit. And I agree with you. I think eventually they're going to win a tournament. The big problem at the moment is they have a really bad penchant for losing close games. Every time they're in a close game, except that Na'Vi series, they've lost, basically. They tend to always just get pipped in the third map or in some key overtime. The Na'Vi one was the first time they came through. So I think eventually, bearing in mind how many events there are, they're going to win one event. I don't know which one it'll be. But in terms of like, will they overtake a Fnatic or something? Probably not, actually, if you look at it. At the moment, there's still a level that they have to go to still to do that. So yeah, I think they're sick. I mean, to me, they're the most fun team to watch at the moment, Luminosity.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, not just fun to watch, but like, what excites me is they actually do tactical innovation. You know, like you can see how they
that's
try.
What I meant by fun as well.
Yeah,
not just excitement.
Yeah, all right. But no, but I mean, because they got that as well, right? They got players like, you know, Cold Zero, who were just fucking incredible to watch and just appreciate the raw talent. But they actually tactically innovate and they're trying to do new things. It's just super unfortunate that Fnatic are their kryptonite. But here's a scenario I could envision. That if Astralis, for example, can get back to the glory days of being able to put one over Fnatic seemingly at will, then we have this like deep run in the tournament for Luminosity where they just get lucky and avoid Fnatic. Somebody else, I think, is capable of knocking Fnatic out, and then that's going to be Luminosity's chance. But I didn't see anything in the final to make me think they're going to get over the hump and be able to beat Fnatic. It was almost painful in a way. And, you know, I feel sorry for them because, yeah, it's great to get to finals, but we've seen it with other teams in the past, like Cloud9. You've got to nail one. You've got to make one stick because you don't know when the next one's coming. And it would be a goddamn tragedy if a team that had this meteoric rise actually never won anything, never put any silverware in the fucking trophy cabinet, you know? That'd be like one of the great sad stories of Counterstrike, I think. One team that doesn't have that problem, obviously, is Fnatic. They're balling out of control. I still am at a loss to explain how they keep doing it. Every tournament I watch, I think this has got to be the one where Fnatic are underwhelming, and it just doesn't happen.
No, I mean, people have to understand that. Like, I have to emphasize this point. So a lot of people get really mad if you say that. I say people, Brazilian fans, get really mad if you suggest that Fnatic sort of owned Luminosity in the final, because they'll say, well, that doesn't make sense, does it? 2 of the maps were really close. Yeah, let's just put this on let's emphasize this point, okay? It was a best of 5 final. The 2 maps that were close were Luminosity's picks. Fnatic just won both of their picks. Then the one map Fnatic got to play that was a Fnatic pick, Fnatic won like 16-3 with a 12-3 T side on cash, which isn't even their strong side usually. They're usually very good on CT side. So essentially, your picks, they're winning, and on their picks, they ultra smash you. That's domination. Like, it's not in terms of the raw score. They didn't win every map 16-5. That's unreal, though. Like, once you get to that level, it's like I made the comment in my video. Fnatic almost has the cheat codes, because on the maps that they're really good on, they're fantastic. Then on the maps they're supposed to be bad on, they still win anyway. Like, for example... It's okay. Their second worst map, okay, because previously they've been banning out. Let me think. What would it be? I think it was Overpass. They'd banned every single time. And then let me think. What off the top of my head was it Overpass?
I think it was. Tell you, I got it in front of me.
I think okay. There was 2 maps.
Yeah, Fnatic are removing Mirage.
Mirage. Okay.
Yeah.
So Mirage is the map they ban every time. Okay. So then beyond that, Train is really bad. It's one of their worst maps. So they go against Virtus Pro, one of the all-time great Train teams on this version. Yeah, they should win on that map too and totally wreck them. That's their worst map. They just win on that against one of the best teams on it.
Yeah.
Then
I agree with you. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Like I made this. Like I had to emphasize this to people in terms of win rate at the moment that Fnatic's on LAN. They have 5 maps that they have a 70% plus win rate on. 3 maps with an 80% plus win rate on. Well, you know, in normal series, you get to ban 1 map. So unless you're good on the 1 map that they're bad on, you can't even get a certain win against them. And if you're Virtus Pro, they might just win that anyway. So at that point in time, how are you supposed to beat them? They win on the bad maps as well.
So, right, I'm gonna touch. You've triggered me because they've said the immortal word cheat code. I'm gonna do it. We've never done it on the show, I don't think. So let's do it. Let's talk about flusha. Right. We need to talk about flusha. There was a clip surfaced. I made it to the front page of Reddit, of course, which had what people were saying was an aim lock. Just to qualify this, you can replicate that movement by sort of pressing tab, opening the menu, moving the mouse, and then if you let tab go, it'll go to where the mouse cursor is, and it will give it a snappy style of movement. It snapped onto what looked like the chest hitbox, which could be coincidental, but the clip brought it all up again. You know, about this flusha cheating thing. And the reason I want to touch upon this is I read this ESPN article, and my God, people who don't know about Counterstrike, like, you don't write about it. You got to do your fucking homework. There was a line in the article where the author said, of course it looks like flusha's cheating. He's one of the best players in the world. Well, if that was the case, we would have seen a deluge of clips for everybody else. We didn't. We've never seen that. We've never seen the likes of which we've seen it with flusha. In particular, that clip on Cash where he called it a pre-fire spot and it just inexplicably went up here. Now, I wouldn't want to fuck with someone's career to the point where I'd make an accusation of somebody cheating. But certainly there are things that I just don't think can be explained without fearing the worst. So, you know, you said, for example, on Reddit the other day, your comment was discussed where you said there was never these other clips for flusha. Sorry, for anyone other than flusha. Yeah, from players. So, I mean, where do you stand on it? And are you convinced that our tournaments have a hermetically sealed, cheat-free environment which would make any accusations redundant? Because don't get me wrong, I think it's retarded. I think anyone accusing flusha of cheating in the here and now is probably retarded, because I don't get why you would risk it. I don't get why the player that's been called out for it the most would literally just sit in his chair and be like, no one suspects the butterfly, and like just fucking cheat openly. There's just no fucking way. It would be ridiculous. It'd be like O.J. Simpson writing a book if I did it. Oh, wait, no, that actually happened. But anyway, there's just no fucking way. There's no way on God's green earth. Nobody has balls that big. He would need a wheelbarrow to get his fucking balls up the fucking stage. It can't happen. But I equally have played Counterstrike in various iterations for a long, long time. And some of the clips I saw, and I watched demos, I didn't just look at GIFs, shitty little GIFs. I can't explain crosshair movement. So I'm going to make you fucking say something now that'll get us death threats. What do you think?
I mean, I still plan to do a really intense video on this where I'll break down some specific stuff, and all, so I can talk at length on that. In terms of right now, first of all, what I would say is, like, my actual comment was like, it's not that there haven't been other clips, it's that there's never been anything close to like this many suspicious clips from other people. Like, we're not talking about flusha has twice as many. We're talking about flusha has 15 times as many suspicious clips as anyone else we've ever found in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. And it's not the same. here's what I hate about discussions on the internet, Richard, is that you get people who join the discussion and they're the equivalent of someone joining, like imagine World of Warcraft. Okay, I don't know much about MMOs, but I'll give you my reference from one. Okay, imagine someone joining a forum about World of Warcraft, and in the forum there's all these people who are level 78. I don't know how high it goes. 78. Okay, all the people level 78 are discussing like how you do a certain thing, and someone joins and he's level 2. And he goes, well, see, the thing about that is what you guys don't realize is, and then says something that famously everyone who's level 2 says. And what happens is once you get to level 4, everyone who was level 2 realized, oh, wait, that doesn't make sense, actually. I've just learned a bit about the game, and now I'll say something different. And then you put level 10, learn something different in the set. The problem with every discussion on these sorts of topics is the same fucking moron thinks he's cracked it and says the same piece of rhetoric everyone has heard without stopping to think whether it's true. So here's the thing that everyone says, Richard. Well, the only reason there's so many clips of flusha is because everyone thinks flusha cheats and goes, what to do? No, that's called cart before the horse, my friend. What happens is every time, here's how someone caught flusha the first time in a suspicious clip. He was playing in a game, someone noticed something suspicious, they brought it up to the public. The public then looked for more instances, found more instances, said, wow, these are suspicious, found more instances. More instances happened after that. They started cataloging them all. How you see, it didn't work the way you said. It worked the other way around. They found the clips, then they found more clips, then they found more. They didn't invent clips and find them and go crazy. And go. So what happens every other time someone does a suspicious clip? Same thing. Config does a suspicious clip, right? People go back in time. They found another clip. But you know what? They had to stop there. They could only find, no matter how many they had, 2 or 3 config clips. Now, Existence had a clip on Dust 2 where he aim locked through someone on the wall. You think no one went look for clips? Of course he did. They couldn't find any more. Shocks had some clips. I think he's had about 5 clips now. Even Shocks, who's played 1 million games, had insane clips. Only 5 or so clips. The point is, everyone has tried the same thing with these players, and everyone is still watching their live games. Remember, every live Counterstrike game, even online, has like 20K viewers. No one is seeing these clips. No one is cataloging them. No one is even making idiotic HL3E threads about these aim locks. They don't exist. flusha is the only one with this scope and scale and portfolio of insanely suspicious clips. And that's the other thing. His clips aren't just suspicious. Some of them are like bafflingly suspicious to where I can go to people who are more knowledgeable than I am, who are experts in Counterstrike or experts in cheats, and they go, if you ask me how this is done legit, I don't know how it's done. Now, then you can add in all the other rhetoric. Well, how is he doing it? How's he cheating? I don't know that. That's not what you're asking me. You're asking me, look at this clip, and here's the key thing. Forget who the name is. Look at the clip and tell me, is that suspicious? Now, notice I don't say the person's cheating because I don't know about cheats. All I can tell you is, if I had to look into a cheater, the first thing I'd ask is the person suspicious? If they're not, I probably won't invest time and effort into looking into it. So on the scale of is the person suspicious, flusha is like maxing out the fucking red end of the scale where the arrow can't hit anymore on suspicious as fuck. Some of these clips are fucking ludicrous. Now, does that mean he's a cheater? He should be kicked out of tournaments? No, it doesn't mean any of those things. It just means I wish there was somewhere we could know. I wish there was somewhere we could investigate it more. And I have a few ideas for how we could, but they're so abstract and they're not actual like practical things we can apply. That again, I'll save those for the video when I do it eventually. But yeah, I would say he is the most, put it this way, if legit, he is the most suspicious legit player in the history of Counterstrike, and I've watched 15 years of it.
Yeah. And you know, I think that's a good summary. I do want to add the caveat that, you know, I as I said, never going to accuse anyone blindly. I think I wouldn't want to damage anyone's reputation or career. But I think at this stage, I think enough people make the allegation. Enough people do think he's suspicious. And therefore, I don't think I'm saying anything anyone else isn't. And I'm like you. I couldn't explain the hows. I actually just to if I can explain the hows, then we can, reverse engineer the solution.
No, here's the key thing, Richard. I'm actually someone who believes in the I don't have beliefs like that, but my general philosophy on life is that unless you can actually be shown to have done something illegal that breaks a rule, and then it's proven that you did it, unless there's like really good evidence for all of this, then you should not be convicted of the crime. As in, I'm not one of those people who's like, well, it doesn't matter if you catch a few innocent people, as long as you get all the criminals. No, I think that's actually morally wrong. So if there was a criminal who did tell me, you know what, I actually did murder this person, but he told me in private, And publicly never said that. And publicly they couldn't link him to the evidence. And it was only circumstantial. Even though I knew in private he'd done it, I would say, well, then you probably should go free then. I'm sorry. Like, it's fucked up, but unfortunately no one could prove the case. So in this scenario, even though I think it's super suspicious, I wouldn't be in favor of banning flusha. I wouldn't be in favor of him like just being kicked out, or people saying, oh, well, these are suspicious clips. Unless they can catch him cheating. That's the key thing. The past doesn't even matter anymore. We're never going to get that. They have to catch him in the future cheating for this to be the case. And again, absolutely. I'm not even certain he is cheating. I just don't understand these clips. And as a side point, one thing that does infuriate me is how impossibly shit the official explanation for all the clips are. They're so impossibly shit, it's unreal. They don't even have a good cover story or alibi. Like, their explanations don't even make sense. Like, as in, my hand hit the keyboard. Shut the fuck up, you idiot. 15 times in a row. Get up my face. 3 times in the key match when you're going to be eliminated from a major you made it to the final of on the weakest match.
I read one post, right? I read one post, dude, where it was like, this guy was like, I have studied, fuck me, it was, all right. I have studied flusha's setup and his sensitivity and DPI combined to this, which mean that he actually plays with his wrist and makes a movement like this. And by doing that, that means that he can't go to the places. And it's like, yeah, but that doesn't explain ever why the crosshair would land on someone repeatedly. It just doesn't explain that.
Okay,
so what the fuck are you even talking about, you fucking retard?
Fnatic organization, do you want to help flusha's case seem better? Okay, get a camera, put it on flusha while he plays a whole match. You're not going to find a name lock. Just find me a moment where his mouse bumps against his keyboard. Because that's supposed to have happened 20 times now. Just find me one moment where that happens. Even that would start to make a circumstantial case that makes it seem more reasonable. Yeah, exactly. And it's the thing where all the tournament organizers that are doing all these great, measures back fucking stage, which are grotesquely over exaggerated, by the way, outside of Valve official tournaments. I'm not fully convinced we're doing everything that we say we're doing, right? But where is well, we've actually we put a secret keylogger on, and we found there was no untoward pushing of buttons that wouldn't be explained or anything like that. Why aren't we filming players' hands? Why is no one ever coming out publicly and going, we did spot checks on PCs and found nothing? Because you're right, there is a scenario in this where flusha is just an innocent guy who's been incredibly unlucky. And I guess in an infinite universe, anything's possible, right? So he's been incredibly unlucky a bunch of times. No one's come out to help him. They've let him handle it himself. He's not the most outgoing person. I know, I've done interviews with him. And I lift my mouse a lot, and everyone's like, what the fuck is that, dickhead? That doesn't even make any sense. So they've let him further wreck himself and set himself up to be a laughing stock. So, yeah, people should be coming out, Whatever happened with these drug tests, by the way? What happened to them? Where did the drug tests go? People come out and say, we did drug tests and we didn't find anyone. That happens in athletics. That's not happening anymore. We pretend we fix a problem, and then we hope everyone forgets that it was ever a fucking problem, whether it was a problem or not. Like, the reason why this whole topic has come up as well is because of that ESPN article. That line triggered me so hard because it was so wrong. Like, think about this. That's another point I always make. So, no, he's not. He doesn't cheat. He's just good. Where the fuck is the Kenny S clips? Kenny S was at one point in time probably the best CSGO player, as in at that moment, that we've ever seen. Yeah. He was literally every game, online, offline, just dropping 30, doing fucking no-scopes on the 2 people, winning 1v4s, picking someone every round, mid on dust. Like, the stuff he was doing was unreal. There are no clips of Kenny S ever.
Yeah.
There isn't
one.
Well,
the thing is, though, I have studied his sensitivity, Duncan, and being a high sensitivity player with a large Razer Mantis mouse mat, and the fact that he holds the mouse using his middle finger further forward than his index finger, which in the Indian text, the Kama Sutra, means that he is a superior lover. This means that actually it is physically impossible for his crosshair to ever lock onto anyone through a wall. So I've explained it. And now I'm going to go outside and talk to aliens. Like, what the fuck is going on? How did the community get this fucking stupid?
But what I have figured out, Richard, though, it did help. That article did solve one problem for me. I've realized now why over 1 month into there being an esports section of ESPN, I've solved the problem, guys. You know, you're always wondering to this day, why is there still not a CSGO section on ESPN? Well, through their incredible investigative journalism, which as far as I can tell, ESPN's CSGO journalist department is sort of like that TV show Cold Case, where they go and find really old cases that were never solved and they start investigating them again. But they just come to the same conclusions. What happened is, through this cold case of shit from years ago, they found out that everyone in CS, everyone is a drug addict and a cheater. Therefore, they're not going to endorse cheating, which obviously isn't a sport, and they haven't given us a section. Instead, they're sticking with good, wholesome family values like Hearthstone, where they say, well met, sir, and play cards that you just bought that make you win the game. Anyone
I told you, man, there's that games journalist, what's he called, Jeb Whittaker or whatever, who wrote an article saying that the Hearthstone emote system can be abused to trigger people. So, I mean...
Mate, I've raped at least 7 women just using that. I've harassed them. I've made some of them commit suicide. Some of them, actually, when I said well met, they thought I was referring to their gender, and they were very questioning about that. And actually, they just took their own lives. But you know what, man? I'm unrepentant, and I'll do it again if I get the chance to.
Oh, I can't do it anymore. I just need a holiday, man.
Just the edgy show I've written it.
It's too much, dog. Anyway, right, so like all of this bullshit about flusha, I'm only really bringing it up just to show that we had the balls to fucking talk about it when everyone else won't. And you got people like ESPN coming out and being, don't want to lose that interview with Fnatic. I fucking respect every player on Fnatic. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't talk about topical things in the community. That's what I do. I know every player on Fnatic respects and understands that. And I don't think there'll be a problem when I see them in the future. Anyway, let's talk about something good from Fnatic. olofmeister, back to the best player in the world. God-tier performance in Katowice.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with olofmeister is, in many ways, his team now, this is why he's like unstoppable again. I have to say, even though olofmeister individually wasn't as good when Fnatic started to drop off towards the end of the year when it was the Cluj-Napoca major, and they had dropped off from the top spot there, and they weren't as much of a threat to win tournaments, I do think part of me wonders now whether it was actually his level of form entirely, because I've noticed when Fnatic's really good, the thing with him is he'll always have an off map, but if you give him 3 maps in a row, he's never going to have 3 that are bad in a row. So if you give him 1 map off, okay, you've got a chance. You better close it quick on game 2. Oh, you didn't quite get there. He's starting to wake up. Oh, shit, you better watch out. He's coming. And then map 3, he's just going to smash your head in completely. So the problem is, because Fnatic overall is so skilled right now and their form is so sick, it means that, again, he doesn't have to turn up for every map, but he's going to turn up enough times. He's just going to be the best player. And so it's like you almost have a clock on the game that you better end the game super fast in 2 maps in these particular maps. Otherwise, olofmeister inevitably will turn up and be absolutely unreal. And again, he did it here. I mean, he had like a slow start to the tournament. Then he was just completely wrecking. I mean, yeah, he's just the best player in the world. And at this point, when you consider he's done it for the better part of a year, I mean, that whole thing with Fnatic, where eventually Fnatic had won enough tournaments that you were like, wait a minute, they're actually probably better than NiP now because they're doing it in an even harder era. It's like that with olofmeister. If it gets to the point where he does it for a few more months, and he's done it for something like 12 out of 15 months, he probably is the best player of all time at that point in time. He's playing versus all the other monsters and wrecking them all anyway.
And I'll be honest, I think this modern era of CSGO is just way more competitive than any other era. I know it can be like, I don't know, he probably is not a big fan of that statement because that seems like something that Riot Games would say. But I genuinely think just to like, you go back to the NIP era, like when NIP dominated, for example, I don't want to, you know, you can only beat what's in front of you. You can only beat the opponents that are there. But like, I don't consider that era to be even comparable to this. NIP with the pioneers, yeah, they doubled down on CSGO at a time when other people were still, we don't even know if it's going to be a success. We don't necessarily like the game. Maybe 1.6 will come back, fingers crossed, all that bullshit. You know, so yeah, you dominated in an era that there was only ever one team you had to beat, or 2 teams. Now, as we're seeing, we've got a very the top 6 teams in the world can really do damage to each other. And a team that dominates in this era deserves mad fucking props. And a player that dominates in this era, I agree with you. I think olofmeister is going a long fucking way to be able to say, hey, I'm the greatest Counterstrike player of, certainly in CSGO of all time. And his dominance now is comparable to a vintage Neo, something like that. He's in 1.6, and the guy's a fucking monster.
Here's the thing. The only reason I get annoyed by that statement is just in the sense that people, when they try to use it in every single few months, they go, oh, now is the most competitive. No, now. Here's the thing. It's not that I'm saying now isn't the most competitive overall. Now is more competitive than NiP era, for sure. I mean, in the NIP era, some of the problems, I made this point in a past video, actually. One of the things people never take into account whenever they were trying to explain the NIP era that I made the point of was, look at who the other best teams are. And a couple of those teams just kept the same players from Source or 1.6, didn't make any changes. And therefore, it took them like 6 months to realize that the lineup didn't work. While NIP was just wrecking them the whole time when they had the dream lineup from day one, basically. So there's a lot of reasons. And also, some of the tournaments NIP won, not every team could make it to. So a player like Dosia, who was already very sick, he wasn't even at some of the early NIP tournaments. They were just winning them for free when one of the other best players wasn't even there to fight you. So difference is Fnatic faces the best teams every tournament. You got guys, like, for example, in mousesports now, you have a player, NiKo, who's one of the best players in the world. He's on a team that's not even vaguely top 5, and he can go head-to-head with some of these people. So the level of competition is insane. The only reason I say it's not the best now is because I would say the best competition ever, I think, in CSGO was actually the fall of last year, the August period around autumn of last year, where coming into kUcheR was the only time I've ever seen it where there was like legit 4 teams that were like unreal. They were all, you knew that one of them was going to win the major. They could all have like A beats B, B beats C, C beats D. It was that sort of a sick scenario. So the only reason why I say that was more competitive is because most of those teams still have the same lineup now. It's just that the lineup was in better health back then, or that was better in a better period of their lifespan.
And I'm glad you brought up NiKo, because I like, it would be criminal if I didn't mention his performance. What's interesting is, and I see if you agree with this statement, while olofmeister, I think, is the best player in the world right now, I think NiKo is the most valuable. Because for mousesports, he does it all. He's the caller, he's the fragger. He digs them out of so many holes they get into in terms of his pistol play. And he's the only reason mousesports ever would be competitive with a top-tier team like Fnatic. He literally has put the team on his back, and he's still a fucking kid. And what's hilarious is, this is a guy that when people were saying 40,000, mousesports were like, look, if you want him, 40,000 euros. And the old gamers too that are now phase were like, a bit pricey, that. Fucking hell, you'd pay 10 times that now. Like, this guy's fucking unbelievable. He's going to be hands down one of the best players. And I rate him as like just perhaps the most valuable pound for pound currently. That's what I think. Now, maybe that's hyperbole. Maybe that's getting carried away with hype. But fuck it, I rarely do that, and I'm going to do it here.
I mean, here's the thing. In that respect, yeah, he's the most valuable. The only problem I have with NiKo is, like, everything I see in games wicked. He's a really sick player, and it's always impressive to me when people carry on teams that are losing. It's just that the in-game leader part's the part that fucks with me. Like, if he actually is the in-game leader, like, I know now they have coaches and all this sort of shit, so maybe some of it's been offloaded. But it's the same reason I used to criticize Happy whenever EnVyUs lost. Because I used to say, if you're the in-game leader and you're doing the best and you're always fragging well, but your team loses, now I have to start wondering how much of it's like you call things around you and how much it's like you could like sacrifice a bit more. Now, I can't say that entirely because obviously NiKo hasn't even been around calling that many lands, so I'll give him credit in that sense. Whereas I said it about Happy when he had been doing it for like 8 months or something, you know. But that's one question I do have about it, is if he's going to stay as the in-game leader, it's not really enough to just have a sick performance yourself and then lose the game. Like, unfortunately, in-game leaders, we do judge you to a degree of how good your T-sides are and how good your team wins are and how well your team performs in a match they lose. So if you're the in-game leader, team accomplishments come into it as well. So there's that one downside. But as an individual player, yeah, he's very good. Yeah,
I mean, look, again, obviously, chat's gonna wreck me a little bit, saying, "What do you mean you don't get hype trains? You did it with kUcheR. I did it way before anyone else in Europe." And kUcheR, and it's provable. Someone even found the VOD where I first mentioned it. And it was like fucking, I don't know, September or November or some shit. I don't even know. It was a while ago, put it that way. I was ahead of the fucking curve on that one, and I stand by it. He is the most exciting talent to come out of fucking NA. I'm not getting on board that Roker train. I want to see this fucker at a LAN. So, you know, I'll judge him based on that. Yeah, it's great when you run around in matchmaking, shooting people that don't shoot back, and going, "Oh, how have I done this? I am so sick." Brilliant. Love you, mate. Go to a fucking LAN and do it. kUcheR has. So, yeah, that's where I'm at on that one. That just basically fucking secured getting DDoSed. So the show will probably end in a second. But anyway, yeah, I think NiKo's like super exciting. I'm actually enjoying, we're starting to get this sort of emergence of new talent coming through. Yeah, okay, kUcheR's like, and NiKo are like the fucking, you know, poster boys for kind of that. But, you know, everyone was talking about Oscar recently, and he was heavily linked with joining other teams. And I believe he said on a stream he himself had some approaches. I believe Optic was one of them. So, I mean,
I think recently, Oscar actually said on stream very recently, he directly implied that Virtus Pro is going to use their original lineup for the next major, and if it doesn't go well, they're going to bring Oscar in. I think he implied that or directly said it.
Well, again, there's a lot of talent out there that I think can improve teams that are struggling for talent. And again, you see these NA teams, they're missing tricks left, right, and center. You know, like people are getting really slow. It's like no one does any scouting in Counterstrike, and like you need to acquire a reputation which would actually make you impossible to buy, impossible to transfer to a team before anyone's like, oh, he's a good player. Getting back to the point of NiKo being an in-game leader, I actually watched Katowice with Gob B, who's obviously out here in Vegas in the NR, because that's where NRG are based. So we've been hanging out quite a bit. He's gone to Croatia, I think, today. But we were watching a lot of the games. Like, and I'll tell you what, right? Considering he could be the saltiest motherfucker about how mousesports went down, nothing but praise for NiKo, and he thinks, you know, and this is coming from one of the great in-game leaders in 1.6. And I think in CSGO, I think he's a very underrated in-game leader. And I think NRG are definitely a team to watch. I think they're maybe one player short of actually being a very good NA team, at least. But yeah, he thinks NiKo's got all the attributes to be a really good in-game leader. So, I mean, that for me is an endorsement and a half. So I'm gonna monitor his progress. We'll see if he turns into Happy, where it's like, yeah, all four of you just run into that crossfire while I get a deagle headshot to boost my scoreline. One last thing about Katowice. Yeah. I don't know if you saw this, but we got accused of being racist. The Counterstrike community, not just us specifically.
Thought it was us again. Shit, what have we done, Mitch? I wasn't in there.
Yeah. Similar territory, I believe. But actually, they did use me and you as justification for an explanation as to why the Counter-Strike community is racist. Now, I would urge anybody to find any racist statements by me. I don't actually have that in my makeup. I'm not, you know, the only people, as I've said many times over, I'm prejudicial against the morons. I don't want to, embrace stupidity.
We all know Brazilians aren't a race.
Yeah. So, not that I want to be accused of xenophobia either. And again, don't bring me into your Brazil beef, motherfucker. I'm staying all the way out of that one. You can have another nation where you're on a fucking no-fly list and can't go there. I'm all right. I want to go to Brazil one day. I just want to go on the record and say I've never used the word favela except to explain the definition of what favela is. I've talked about all this, the wonderful culture that Brazil has brought us. I have a very deep understanding, for example, of what I think, I can't pronounce it, but I think it's the malandro culture, which is the idea of being, trickery and having trickery and deception being something to actually be respected because you have to hustle on the streets, and that's why they apply it to the football, and that's why the football's so magical. So I fucking love Brazil, and I want to go to Brazil. So don't fuck this up for me, right? I've got to go work on my tan. But anyway, so we got accused of being racist. Subreddit drama, SRD for short, populated by social justice warriors and the absolute dregs of the internet. It was at one time a fun subreddit where it was like, let's laugh at what's going on Reddit. Well, there was a thread brought up about a front page global offensive Reddit post, which was somebody at Katowice, I think it was, held up a sign saying, leave DE Europe CT sided. Yeah. And the implication being that if terrorists were coming into Europe, that's a bad thing. So they immediately assumed the worst and said that, this is anti-immigration. This is people from Poland being racist and abusive. And they had a very long debate about it, including immortal posts like, when you've got people like Richard Lewis being openly racist, what do you expect for your community? And again, it's like, well, why let the facts get in the way of a good rant? It's never stopped social justice warriors before. So what did you see this sign? And if so, what did you think about it?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. I mean, again, it's one of those scenarios where the thing that triggers me the most about the social justice warrior shit is, even if it was actual racism, let's say the sign actually said, I don't want black people in my country. Let's say that's what the sign said, right? even then the overreaction would be way too much. But they'll overreact when the sign doesn't even say that, but as if it did. So on this exact example, it said, let's keep Europe CT-sided. It didn't even say, by the way, no terrorists. It just said, let's keep it CT-sided. So actually, technically, they didn't even say terrorism's bad. But the implication, the joke, is they don't want terrorists in Europe. Now, if we've really gotten to the point in society where saying, I don't want terrorism in the continent I live in, is considered xenophobic, I don't actually think I want to be on this planet anymore. And fuck this cisgendered Earth. You see what I did there, Rich? Ooh.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Very edgy.
So yeah, I don't really think it's somehow unreasonable to say you don't want terrorism in your country, or that that's in some way xenophobic.
Right. Do you want to know what's beautiful about this, Duncan? This is why I had to bring this up, right? I don't give a fuck. I straight don't give a fuck, because this is just so fucking funny. Think about what you got wrecked for. Just think about it.
Yeah.
Right? Now, there's a regular... I probably shouldn't say his name, because everyone's obviously fucking retarded, and apparently vote brigading now is like where if you make reference to where you can find something, and then people go out of their own way to go and vote on it, even though you've not asked it or solicited it in any way, you have to be penalized because you're the one brigading. So I can't even tell you where this is or tell you who this person is. Not that it's ever going to affect me anyway. But there was a post here in this thread. Okay, and it's unbelievable that this is coming from a social justice warrior. Not making excuses, but for some context, Poland is like 99.9% ethnically Polish. Ethnically Polish, sorry. Okay. So, I mean, great statistic there that they've just pulled out their ass. If anyone ever says 99.9%, nothing is 99.9% ever. That number it's never that, right?
Okay.
We're talking 50,000 foreigners in a country of 40 mil. Half of those are ethnically white. Very vast majority over the other half lean towards Vietnamese. And they're somewhat unique in Central Eastern Europe on a Catholic conservative upswing at the moment. They're not very much keen on the issue, I guess, of multiculturalism, but they've also never been much of a cultural diversity stronghold in their entire history. A lot of their problems is a hefty dose of ignorance. So to justify somebody holding a sign up saying terrorism bad, they're going to say, you're ignorant as fuck. Your country is somehow inherently racist. Meanwhile, same person, by the way, posts earlier in the thread, Thorin was racist against Poland. What the fuck is wrong with this picture?
Also, because the whole thing is, let's be fair to the social justice warrior. The reason why my take on why they say it's racist is because their implication goes like this: as usual, every social justice warrior can read the minds of people who aren't even in the same room or country as him. What he does is he reads their mind from their words, reverse engineers everything the person secretly meant, even sometimes on a subconscious level, and then explains it with perfect accuracy without ever having to check with that person. And then if the person ever says, well, that isn't what I meant, the person's a liar, and actually you know better than them what they meant. So what the social justice warrior did when he saw that sign is he thought, wait a minute, they're saying they want to keep Europe CT-sided, which means that they don't want terrorists, which means that at the moment there's a big furore about a lot of refugees coming into countries. So they're saying they must all be terrorists. A lot of the refugees are maybe Muslims. They're saying all Muslims are terrorists. So what the sign actually said was everyone in Poland doesn't want anyone non-white from another country that could be a Muslim or in any way a refugee or in any way impoverished to ever come into Poland because they are all terrorists, should probably all be killed. And that's what he's trying to communicate to the whole world through this sign. And even though it was one sign out of a whole crowd of thousands of people and doesn't represent all of Poland's nation, actually all of Poland was on board with it. And if they could have, would have brandished their own signs. I think, as a social justice warrior, that's a reasonable take on what the sign meant.
It's fucking so bad, isn't it? It's so unbelievable. These people, like, okay, if anyone ever wants to know why Donald Trump keeps winning in these elections, it's because of retards like that, right? Because I'm obviously out here in America, great country, love it out here. And everyone I've been talking to all says the same thing.
Also, by the way, just as a final point, I will not hear it said that Polish people are not in favor of multiculturalism. They are in favor of Polish people being integrated into every major Western European country, and that's actually factually accurate, Richard. You can go out and check. It's happening. It's a very practical thing.
I believe in 99.9% of cases. But anyway, so everyone I talked about here, why did you vote for Trump? Is it his policies? Because I don't think he has any. And they all say the same thing. I just want to see the looks on the faces of these fucking social justice warrior types when he wins. That's it. That's his whole. It's the regressive left that have led to the rise of Trump, who is their ultimate nemesis. That's how stupid these people are. Right. Let's move away from Katowice unless there's anything else you'd like to talk about, because we've got big news to cover.
Let's have a look.
I mean, there were some
teams, like, you can't go through every storyline.
Okay, EnVyUs losing to EFrag. That's a talking point. Then we'll piece the fuck out. So, I mean EnVyUs.
Here's the thing about EnVyUs that's kind of crazy, okay? So they finished with 1 win out of 4, and that 1 win was over FaZe, right? Here's what's crazy. Despite finishing with 1 win, they won 67 rounds over the tournament, which, by the way, Virtus.pro won 63 in the group stage. So what's mad is it's not like they just got rinsed out. Like, even in their losses, they're losing overtime, they're losing close game, they're losing 16-14, losing 16-11. They're putting up rounds all the time. So they're clearly not a terrible team. But yeah, they went completely to shit in this tournament. And the key thing for me with EnVyUs is, I mean, actually, MBK made a comment about this the other day when I said, like, I was amazed at the map pick ban against, I forget which team it was against. I think against maybe, I can't remember, who gives a shit. And he basically, I said something along the lines of, like, oh, they banned their 2 best maps. And MBK just said, like you're living in the past if you think we have best maps. And he's right. They have no maps that they're really good on now. They don't have a single map that they can be certain to get a win on against the top team. So that's how I agree they were in, like, dire straits. They were at the end of their rope at that point in time.
I mean, you shouldn't ever be losing to a team like fucking EFrag. I know it's happened before. I think Star Ladder, right? I think they lost in a best of 1 in the groups to them out there. It might also have been an overtime, if memory serves me correctly. Not too sure, though. But yeah, I think so. I think they were called something else back then.
Yeah, they were called G-Play back then, right?
Yeah, that was a G-Play, yeah. Sorry, fucking...
no, you might be right. You might be. I think I might.
Yeah,
have
I'm pretty sure.
Close, something like that.
No, I think they lost. I'm pretty sure they lost in the groups. But anyway, so the fucking... this is for me like a terrible sign, because you win that major, everything is set up for this to be the EnVyUs era, to be dominant, and it's just not happening at tournaments. So okay, where do we go from here? Now, ordinarily, historically, with French teams, whenever there's problems, basically you've got like 2 groups of players with all their sort of alliances, and they have to take breaks away from each other, but then they realize, we're going to have to bury the hatchet and come back and work with each other. And this has historically happened with Shocks in existence, on and off, repeatedly. Now, this is where, we need a roster change. This is where EnVyUs should be firing up the Shocks signal, right? Like, please come back to us, please. We know that we're going to have to go back to drinking Shocksy Red Bulls 3 minutes before we play a game. We know we're going to be stinking hungover and we're going to lose every fucking opening match at the tournament. But things were just so much better. It's like Jesse's girlfriend in Breaking Bad, It's a relationship that could be fundamentally unhealthy, but there's good there. You can actually be happy. It can work, So instead, things have got so fucked up. The talent pool's so thin in France, which was one of the, pound for pound, one of the best fucking scenes that had like this depth, this breadth of talent. Now you have to pick up Devil. And that has got to be one of the most underwhelming pickups I have seen in CSGO. This is, I think, potentially even worse than Pitt going to NIP or Stewie 2K going to Cloud9. I think this is like as underwhelming as it gets for a team of EnVyUs' caliber.
I mean, I still think 2K will always be the case test of credulity, where if someone can go, that's a great pickup, it's like, you don't need anything at this point, do you, mate? You don't need a fact, you don't need any evidence, you don't even need good reasons. You'll just take anything at this point if you like the team, right? So I still think Stu 2K is the worst pickup of all time in that sense, as in, at the moment the pickup was made, there was no logical justification for doing it. Like, whether he later on becomes a great player, that's neither here nor there. At the time, the trade was terrible. Like, the move wasn't the right one. In terms of the Devil one, I also agree. And here's the really suspicious part for me with the Devil move, is Devil was not even heralded as a great talent on LDLC White. People weren't even saying at these shitty little lands he used to play at, wow, well, that guy's a beast though. Like, if you ever give that guy a chance, think about this guy in Tyloo now, Fancy One, who keeps wrecking everyone. Or when Machine Gun was bodying people on Mongols. At least in their shitty own scenes, everyone was like, wow, this guy is sick. I'd love to see him against European competition. That was never said by anyone about Devil. What's even more suspicious to me is, so people like Existence are stuck in hell. They're in G2. They know they can't get any good players because they're all in EnVyUs. So rather than them be able to just sit around and do nothing, they have to pick up just any old player. So they get Smiths, and he's totally broken down. They have to keep RPK, even though he doesn't make that much improvement. They have to bring Scream back, even though Scream has still done nothing for about a year. If at any point in time there was a really talented guy with no roster, like no contract buyout, they would have snapped this guy up. So in either, EnVyUs has done the craziest scouting ever, where they've picked this guy out of the crowd, like fucking Bruce Springsteen pulling Courtney Cox or whoever the fuck it was up in that video, who then went on to become a star and was obviously some Illuminati initiation through the media. So unless they've done that, I think this is going to be insane, because I don't believe that G2 was sat around with this Devil guy who would have joined for free and they don't have any fucking firepower on their team, and they were like, don't pick that guy up. I'd rather have some old busted up bitch-ass guy with like 17 too many times vowels in his name who looks like a vampire and has just drank a Red Bull and died. Love you, Smiths. Love you, mate. Still love you.
So, like, no, but here's the thing, right? Like, it started this hipsterish bullshit as well, man. Like, the hipsterish shit has already begun about Devil. Devil is low-key a beast. That's why everyone's like, you know, oh, low-key is amazing. It's amazing. I've followed Devil for years. No fuckers followed this guy. No one. We have to. It's our jobs. We don't enjoy it. You know, I'm like you. I'm a connoisseur, right? I have to have a vested interest in watching a young emerging talent, because it's Counterstrike. You get your heart broken too many times. Oh, this guy's going to be... that's the end of that story. And then you do it again and again and again. If you times that by a decade and fucking 15 years in your case, you just realize it's never worth the while. You know, people will have these purple patches of form. It's like you said, no one's hyped up Devil. Nobody in the fucking world. So I do not understand why now people are trying to make out, actually, this is an incredible pickup for EnVyUs. This just shows how fucking bad things have got in French Counter-Strike. That's all it is. That's all it proves.
That's why it's like the Stewie 2K move, though, because the whole thing with the Stewie 2K one is no one was saying this guy would be incredible and competitive, because he hadn't been. He was in like ESEA Premier or some dog shit and wasn't even dominating there. It's like the same. Here's what's funny. People like to hype people where there's any good reason to hype them. No one was hyping Devil, so people hyped the shit out of Machine Gun. Remember that? Oh, he's going to be the next year. Man, tell you what, I wish that Mongols had gone to the qualifier. They'd have definitely qualified. You know what? The major, they could have done damage and took maps. They finished last place with 0 wins at IEM. Shut the fuck up. It's almost like they'd never played a real team before. It's almost like they lost the map to Chiefs and you guys were hyping them. And what happened in real life? Same thing that always happens. You take 50 darts, you throw them all, one lands, and you go, I'm fucking sick at darts. And I go, you missed 49. No, I didn't. I never threw those darts. You threw a 50 and you missed 49. Meanwhile, think about the logic all the way around. For, let's say, 48 of those, I go, nah, I don't think he'll make it. One makes it, and you go, you don't know anything about this game. Unreal, isn't it? You can't win, Richard. Facts don't even work, do they?
And of course, I've already seen the argument as well. Well, I looked at the HLTV stats, and he was statistically destructive. Fuck, are we going to have this conversation again about the deceptive nature of stats, like, and how Counter-Strike has terrible stats? Obviously, we are. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about kUcheR. right? So kUcheR was in a fucking bad place. He was fucking dog shit. Let's be real. He's been really bad for the last...
Also, I'm so sick of people using stats with no context. Using stats with no context is like in the movie The Fugitive, where they tried to say that Dr. Robert Kimball, or whatever his name was, must have killed his wife because there was no one-armed man who could have done it. But you know what? If he'd have just left those facts, he'd be in prison right now. He dead, like I do, to live out his imaginative dreams, to jump off the pipe that comes out of a dam, survive the fall. Spoilers, I don't give a fuck. Came out like 1995 or something. Maybe 93. Survived the fall. He saw out that one-armed man. And you know what? Turned out he did exist. So facts don't show all the story.
And the thing is, if EnVyUs had got that one-armed man, they would have had a better player than Devil. So anyway, well yeah, right. Anyway, fuck, you've thrown me off now with your fucking Unreal reference. Yeah, kUcheR. So you may recall we had a conversation with kUcheR. I believe it was at Cluj, and I said something along the lines of, he was talking about how he felt he was a great role player and the team was much better with him in it because he was willing to play a role, and maybe other people who were superior players that had been in the team before weren't gonna do that, and therefore, and I was like, all right, well, let's just see where we all are in a few months. I'll give it about 3 months, I think I said. So I'm slightly out. But I was like, you know what happens? You get no respect for being a role player if you don't put up numbers. Like, you're just going to get fucking kicked and shocks will come back. Well, that would have been tolerable. If I was kUcheR, I'd have been like, okay, kick for shocks. It's shocks. Fair fucks. He might be my nemesis a little bit, but whatever. Kick for Devil. I hope someone's giving him the number of the Samaritans, mate, because he's gonna. What has happened? His whole life is just over. Like, it's like getting substituted for Emil Heskey. It's unacceptable. And then he says in the statement as well. And when a player's going to stop doing this, by the way, the saltiest passive-aggressive statement of all times. Right? Like, just why did he do it? It doesn't happen in any other sport where he's like, I am leaving the team with many good memories. And you're like, brilliant. That's nice of him. Very nice of him. And then it's like, he goes on to fucking say, like, but I insist on part as a team. Because if I am here today, it's mainly because the team was not acting as one anymore. Our cohesion had become really bad. The communication between players became even worse. We had basically lost our souls. And I personally found it really hard to work in those conditions and could not make it through. My point of view is that I cannot work that many hours with people you cannot communicate with properly or who do not entirely respect you. It was all going so well. Your statement was so nice. Bit of class on the way out. We did have some good times, didn't we, boys? We won that major. Come here. Ha, ha, ha. And then he's just gone full fucking, I don't know, he's gone from Black Beauty to Mr. Ed. He's gone fucking wild, running his mouth. What the fuck's he doing that for?
Listen, kUcheR, let's be real. No matter how bad the communication was, you were fucking dog shit at that video game Counterstrike. You know the thing with your mouse? You know the thing where your brain sends an electrical signal that powers your nerves into your hands and arms and you press keys and move the mouse around? You were shit at that. No amount of people talking in French, beautiful, parlez-vous français? No, nothing they could have said would have made you less fucking like you had some sort of degenerative motor misfiring disease that meant that I think you might actually end up like Stephen Hawking, man. I hope you're fucking amazing at astrophysics, because that's only the future for at this point in time. I don't know what, listen, I don't know if you have a theory of everything, man, like you did in your statement, but you better be fucking wicked at knowing about black holes. And you know what? Your career's like a black hole, mate. Because at this point, your success is never going to reach the event horizon and come out again. It's just going into nothing.
I can't do this. Oh my fucking god!
It's okay, Richard. So, Stephen Hawking's a big fan of the show.
No, I know. He did say that he loves our edgy banter, I believe.
Exactly.
Yeah. In fact, we actually did that joke. That whole bit came with Stephen Hawking's approval, so he's all right with it. kUcheR isn't like, but you know. What
the fuck's kUcheR going to do? Like, quickly transfer all of his skins off his account just when everyone's getting banned for cheating, and then be like, oh, that was an accident. I definitely don't cheat.
Fuck me, you've gone fucking wild. Like,
listen, mate,
you've had a bowl of Edgeos for
you know
breakfast.
What? I'm gonna add one last one in as a little gift for everyone. Are you ready for some speculation? Yeah. I'm so next level at shit posting. I'm better than any of you guys. You guys can't even do shit posting like I can. Are you ready? None of you on HLTV.org came up with this theory. Go and look at when kUcheR got that girlfriend, and then look at when he went to shit and chart it up and see what happens.
Holy shit. You're unreal.
All I'm saying, just correlation. I didn't say it was a fact. I just said the correlation. The stars are aligned.
General talking point, though. I mean, why? What do you think about players when they say shit like that? Like, oh, hey, here's my statement. Like, oh, everything was so bad in the team, and why do they do that? I just don't get why that's necessary. I don't care if your relationships irreparably broke down. Just fuck off and go get another team. You know?
Well, that's the reason why, isn't it? It's because he can't get another team. That's the problem.
Yeah, but you're not going to talking like that, are you? Like, if I'm a prospective teammate thinking, okay, it's like, right, let's say you've got a friend, right? Yeah. Got a smoking hot chick, right? And they break up, right? And you're like, we're pretty good mates. We're bros. I'm sure he won't mind if I move in there. And then he's going, yeah, but she's straight crazy, bitch crazy. You know what I mean? Like, don't do it. She did this to me. She did that to me. She did this to me. She did that to me. And hoovered all the money out of my bank account. Or she's also a down low meth user. Like, whatever the fuck it is. If you still go into that relationship, you're a fucking retard. Like, for fucking real. So when you put statements out like that going, yeah, well, what happened was the relationship just irreparably broke down and players stopped communicating and we lost our souls. And did I mention that MBK had this weird little pre-match ritual where he would have to kill a chicken and daub blood on all of our faces? You don't want to know any of that. What happens to the team's got to stay in the team. You can't go dishing the dirt like that the minute you get out. Why would anyone want to play with you again if you do that? Some things have to be secret until like 10, 20 years later when you write your biography. Or
let's not forget as well.
Is acceptable.
Every team, while they're doing well in interviews, we are friends, brothers,
best friends, brothers.
By the way, my brother has Dave. He has a fucking skank. Great, cheers. That was your brother, mate. It's your fucking brother. You're telling everyone that.
Yeah.
Also, exactly. By the way, here's the thing: he has nowhere to go. Here's the dream. Here's how he could hit rock bottom. First of all, we've just outed that he's essentially talking shit on Shocks. So good luck getting into G2. But even if he goes to G2, which is already like destined, imagine he goes to G2 and then they're like, like, guys, come on, like, I could help you. And then Smiths is like, but how could you? You are kind of, how you say, shit. That'd be the dream, right?
It's
also, if I'm Smiths, I'm like, wait a minute. Excuse me, Keo. Who did you vote for again in that whole split we had in EnVyUs about whether Shocks and me should stay or whether Happy should be kicked? Where did your vote get casted again, Keo? I believe there is a spot for you on LDLC White. You used to be an LDLC player. You will fit right in. Also, they are shit as well.
Jesus. Right. Rose session over.
Okay.
I'm saying that. Maybe I'm not. Let's do some of the other news. I'll try and do some of the bigger stories. I'll try and do it in rough order. Let's talk about kUcheR departing HellRaisers. Something weird went on there, in my opinion, because Oscar was talking on stream about how he was going, and then he said, oh, and I think maybe kUcheR has already left the team or something. kUcheR, I don't know, like, for me, I was never really sold on him anyway. Like the guy, great guy, always smiling at LAN. Lovely chap to talk to, but never really sold on him. As a pro, I always thought he was kind of a little bit, underwhelming. Dare I say, stupid in some situations. I'd be a little bit baffled by how he played, and I don't know. He just didn't. He didn't do it for me anyway. I guess is what I'm saying. So, do you think him leaving the team? Given that they've got these limitations already, they're bringing in new players, they're having to divide how they do the communication in terms of, English, and they have to put people who communicate in, I believe it's Slovakian on one site and Ukrainian on the other, and then when the rotations happen, it all goes to shit. And given that they had all those problems in there, is it a good idea to replace kUcheR? And if so, who the fuck are they going to get? Because it's not going to be that Smeeka, or however you fucking pronounce it.
I think it was, unless I'm wrong, I think it was Czech, wasn't it? What is it? Is kUcheR?
No, it's Slovakia. Stiko and Zero is Slovakian. I got this wrong in the past. Okay. Stiko and Zero is Slovakian. Yeah. Oscar is Czech.
Right. Okay, but he maybe understands Slovakian.
So we were even dumb. There's like three. There was three fucking nations at play in it. It was a right old mix up.
Okay. No, I agree with you. Like, here's the thing. What people need to know about kUcheR, which is, I assume, how he got into all these teams, is that at the end of 1.6, he was one of the best Ukrainian players. And at the time, yes, Na'Vi were the gods, but the team below them was a team called, I think it was DTS he played for. And the two best players outside of Na'Vi was kUcheR and Craftic. And actually, I think one of these players actually once it might have been Craftic, got an or kUcheR. I'm not sure which of it. Actually got an offer briefly to join Na'Vi when they were thinking of kicking, I think, Edward. And in the end, they changed their mind. They didn't kick him, and obviously it all worked out for Na'Vi. So these players were held in very high regard at the end of 1.6, and they were very good players. Now, in CSGO, he got to play because he played with the mixed team they had of, well, I say mixed team, as in the mix of CIS players that were the original Virtus Pro team that beat NIP, the first team to beat NIP online, then became Astana Dragons, and then became HellRaisers. So he was just in with that crew from day one. And him and Angel were like the core guys. That's why they've remained to the end of the days. Even when the star players like Markelov got kicked from Astana Dragons, Dosia eventually got kicked out, went to Gambit. I mean, people can say they left. No one leaves better teams and goes to worse teams. How fucking gormless are you plebs that believe these statements? Not everyone's going to just come out like some straight socially awkward cretin and just say that everyone in their team was badly communicating and they hate them all. Who would do something like that?
You have to be out of your motherfucking mind.
Exactly. I've only just realised you actually made references before to Black Beauty and Mr. Ed.
Yeah.
Reference game on point. Well done there. Well done.
Thank you.
Under the radar. I like that. Yeah.
I was a little bit saddened that I don't even know what decade Mr. Ed in. But
that was a long time ago.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. But I think Scoops used to watch that as a kid. So that's how fucking long ago that is. But anyway, so yeah, thank you. I've been trying to get my reference game up to your standards.
Okay. So, no, kUcheR was never impressive in CSGO. He was like, here's the thing. When Virtus Pro and HellRaisers and Astana Dragons, rather, were good in 2013, he was a good player. Like, he was decent. The whole team was quite skilled. It was like an all-star aimer team. Beyond 2013, he's the one who started to go down and downhill. For me, him and Angel were the ones who started to drop off a cliff quite rapidly, and they never recovered, really. And as you're saying, they do play in like a very, I think the decision-making they're making game individually is very poor, and as a team was never good. The problem is, when you're a sick aimer, you get out a lot of those situations, it doesn't look as bad. As you become less of a sick aimer and a sick player, especially relative to the level of the top teams all going up, you're going to end up just looking like not a good player, and you don't, because of decisions, and you don't win rounds. And that's what happened in his career. I'm just surprised that it took this long for him to be removed. Like, I don't know why him and Angel just stuck together forever. Maybe it was one of those pacts where it's like, well, if you don't kick me, I won't kick you. I don't know what the fuck's going on. So he stayed in forever. But now he's gone. I hope this doesn't mean he just goes and joins Gambit or something stupid like that. If some scenario like that's even possible, I don't know. I'd imagine probably not. I'm not certain, since they didn't qualify from the major qualify. I don't know those fucking rules. Valve's ruined the game with that. In terms of them being removed, it's not that big a surprise, because if you're HellRaisers, you're probably not going to attend many premium tournaments. You're not going to qualify for the big lands. You're going to go to second-tier tournaments. And if you're at all decent, you probably want to upgrade players when you fail a qualifier like that. So if HellRaisers kicked him, it makes sense. If he left, I don't know what the fuck's going on in the CIS region. Hopefully he's never heard from again. Maybe he can go play in some shit CIS major. That's about it. Hopefully that's the end of the kUcheR story. He looks like Uncle Fester.
Great air material brought out.
That's right also very old.
Yeah, I know. I can say similar decade to Mr. Ed reference game. Incredibly.
By the way, original Uncle Fester, not movies version from the 90s.
No. With who was that Spanish dude who died in it? Raul Gomez or something? Sorry.
Yeah.
It was
Raul
pretty.
Julia. The guy who
Raul
played
Julia. Street Fighter 2.
One of the great roles of all time. As he said, Rich, this is how I always feel when we have a situation. It's like I said about what happened on TNT. So everyone was so impressed. They were like, wow, it's so sick when you like burned a guy like that. And I always say about scenarios like that, like, you have to realize I do this all the time. So like to quote Bison, to paraphrase him, like when that sort of thing happens to the other person, it's the most important day of their life where they get to battle me and put battle of wits. But to me, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, it certainly is. And I'm sure kUcheR will come back with with something very soon. Let's talk. Obviously, you've been fucking out of your mind just doing videos non-stop, it seems. So we're going to go over some territory now that I think we've covered. Oh, yeah, we didn't talk about that, did we? I think we should. So I'll do that right at the end. But let's talk about the E-League. First 6 teams have been announced. And obviously, if we presume Optic are in, because obviously they won that qualifier in Vegas that we did, we've got 7 teams overall in the league. And that's going to be Cloud9, NIP, Astralis, Renegades, CLG, mousesports, and of course, Optic. So you did a video where you were a little bit critical, I think. You said, I watched it, and you said you felt that as an announcement to get, to announce these 6 teams up front was a little bit underwhelming and might make people concerned about the league not having the best teams in it, because there's no Fnatic mention, there's no Luminosity mention, etc., etc. Do you want to pontificate and elaborate more on your point?
I mean, put simply, if the best name you're leading with is Astralis, well, you're already in trouble right there, because we like, as we just mentioned in the show, there's 3 teams we think are better than them. So if Astralis is the best team, then from Astralis, you're dropping all the way to Nip and Mouse. I mean, Mouse aren't even in the fucking top 10. Like, you're in real trouble. Mouse's claim to fame is losing games in which one player gets a lot of frags. They're not even winning games. Like, that's one of the 3rd best teams so far you've announced for your league. Then, all those shitter NA teams we're making fun of, like Cloud9, who can't get it together and are barely qualified for major. Oh, no, they're premium teams you're announcing. So this is in big trouble if this is your league. Now, maybe it's some genius marketing strategy, and I don't know it, and they're going to come from behind at the end and announce Fnatic and Na'Vi and Luminosity, and maybe none of it matters. But it just, I just don't know many people who would lead with kind of a weak or a mixed bag.
So here's what I've been able to deduce from, asking around and talking to people. And obviously I've got no specific insight on this. And I don't know the final list of teams that are going to be in the league. But my understanding is that actually, even now at this late stage, there are still teams that have tried to hardball the league. And have been, we want these inducements to sign and this kind of thing. And I, that's what scares me. That, I mean,
obviously offering millions of dollars and travel to the event, that's not really enough, is it?
Yeah, I mean, no. Let's be clear. Here's what's known. All right, so this isn't revealing anything. I obviously went to meetings right at the start, and my role there at those meetings was basically just to make sure we were talking about things, from a player perspective, make sure there was nothing untoward going on. I was kind of like an observer. I did famously say in the meeting, I don't have a dog in this fight, to which a Turner executive said, well, what are you doing here then? So
was he called Michael Vick?
No. Reference game on point. Animal cruelty reference game incredibly on point.
And then
we've got sacrificed chickens. We've got dog food. Yeah, and something else followed that. Anyway, so
I got blood on my hands. Carmack comes in. Actually, that's ketchup from the delicious hot dogs sold at the Spodek Arena.
Which,
but do not leave that door, or you will never come back into the magic realm, the magical kingdom, as he calls it, ever again.
So they
just kidding. Of course, Carmack would never welcome DMX in. As you know from the social justice wars, he's not very inviting of that particular kind of person.
Keep Europe hip hop free, right? So at these meetings, it was abundantly clear actually that what Turner were offering was a very good package for any of the teams that were in the league. So, for example, they got to keep all of their sponsors that they had. So your endemic sponsors were allowed. There would also be league sponsors, which would generate a revenue share for the teams in the league. You would have what was already being talked about as being an industry bar-setting amount of prize money over a 10-week season, which we now know is 1.2 million, 2.4 million over a year. And of course, organizations get a cut of that, which can vary anything from 10% typically to 25%. Some organizations take even more. So they wanted to. So it seemed like a pretty good deal on paper, yet so many of these organizations, it was like the key word that was getting talked about was like equity. Everyone wanted like a percentage, and it was just never going to happen. It was super unrealistic. And then there's been all this.
By the way, I'm going to make a video on this topic if it turns out that scenario happens. If what I just said, none of those great teams are in the league, I'll make a video. And one point I will make in this video is, show me what equity ESL's giving you in their league, fucks.
Well, and this is where it gets interesting, isn't it? Because obviously we know what's really being talked about is financial inducements. Now, keep in mind, ELEAGUE never used the word exclusivity at any point in the talks. That's never been discussed, never in any meeting or communication exchange. I've never heard a single team or manager, owner, anybody use the dirty E word, right? So again, I've been perplexed by how the teams have sort of dragged this out. And I think Turner were like, look, we're getting closer to the launch. We've got to announce some teams. Now, these teams are the teams that just signed on the dotted line immediately. They were just like, yeah, fuck it. Of course we want to be in E-League. Renegades announced it pretty much straight away. I mean, perhaps even while we were at the very first meetings, they just bit the hand off because it's a great opportunity. So when you so I think that's why these particular teams have been led with. If you to ask me, reading between the lines, I think these are the guys who were just like, it's kind of already been said that they're in the league. They're the first. These were the people that jumped on to the E-League first. And I think what we're going to see is over the coming days, I think we are going to see other teams join up. For example, I agree. If Fnatic aren't in this league, it's a tragedy. It almost would delegitimize it. Because if the number one team in the world isn't in it, then whoever wins it, it's meaningless. It's meaningless. You have to have at least a smattering of the top teams, and ideally you would want the top 4, top 6. And I think we'll get there. I think we will see that. But I just think the whole thing's just been protracted from start to finish, not because of the TV executives, not because of the players. All the players want to be on TV and build their own individual brands. Not because of pundits and commentators, even people who've been burned in the past by shit like the CGS. I think me and you have kept a very open mind about this. But again, it comes down to owners wanting money and exclusivity and all of these other, and equity and all of this other shit that just isn't realistic to be asking for in a league of this size. So I always talk about it. I'm still very hopeful that Fnatic, etc., would be in there. If not, then that's pretty fucking bad. The
problem is they have to be, mate. Here's why they have to be.
I agree.
Like, for me, you have to have minimum 2 out of these 3. Fnatic, Luminosity, Na'Vi. If you get 2 out of the 3, I think it's still fine. It's still a really good league. You can forgive a lot of the rest. And the reason why you have to have 2 out of the 3 is because we already know Renegades and Echo Fox are in the league. Echo Fox, who have done nothing, whose best claim to fame is the shittest fragger on Cloud9, wanted to quit playing Counterstrike, and now inexplicably, I guess money's a hell of a drug, is now playing again with players who used to be good a decade ago in a different version of Counterstrike, and other people who played for fun with a guy who was banned for fucking throwing games. That's the whole team. And they have an E-League spot. So the rest of the league better be fire to get these fucking jobbers.
Chicken coop!
I don't mind if the Undertaker has a fight with a jobber, because I'm going to get to see the Undertaker's finisher move at the end. But if it's a jobber versus a jobber, who the fuck wants to watch that?
Well, yeah, no one, evidently. But look, the thing is, obviously it's TV. You got to think about box office as well. I mean, fuck, Echo Fox are going to bring that to the table, right? We've already seen videos where fucking, Sean Gayers is fucking popping off at people and stuff. I think it could be hugely entertaining. So, just saying. But yeah, I agree with you. Like, without the top level teams, this has the potential to be underwhelming, I suppose. Would
put it this way.
If I were to use.
Listen, Mo, when E-League announces that Echo Fox has joined the league, I feel more frustrated than you at someone missing one at CT hidden a chicken coop, mate.
That is well, okay. So let's just do the groups at Columbus, okay. And then one little surprise topic at the end. So I know you did a video on this, so just some quick thoughts. It doesn't look like there's going to be any NA teams in the stadium. which I'm interested in your thoughts on that, because obviously in Cluj, a lot of people talked about, that you didn't have a big crowd. The atmosphere was a bit underwhelming. I mean, obviously there was like a national day of mourning because a large group of people died in a fire at a concert. I don't know how much that impacted on proceedings, but it did create a sort of somber affair. But if there isn't an NA team going to the stadium's component of it, do you have any concerns about the crowd?
I don't think so. Like, I actually think, here's the thing. I actually think NA is a bit like the reason why Germany had such a great tournament, ESL1 Cologne. I think the people that went to ESL1 Cologne were fans of Counterstrike, and they went to see, yes, mousesports if they were there, but they went to see Virtus.pro, and they went to see Fnatic, and they went to see NIP, and they went to see EnVyUs. And so since these teams were going to make it into the finals, they were going to watch all of these teams. So likewise, I think North American fans, I don't paint them with this like condescending brush that all assholes who work for these massive companies do in esports, that like, oh, they'll only cheer for an NA fan. Said by someone from Poland who is a fan of fucking Liverpool FC. Are you from Liverpool, mate? Don't think so. Where is the Polish team you are a fan of? Oh, there isn't one. That invalidates your whole theory. Oh, wait, you are better than other people, right? So you do not consider yourself like a pleb, i.e. all your fans. Anyway, little side tangent there. Got off track a little bit.
Why not? Why not? Got to work through those old grudges, baby.
I know. My point is, I think NA fans want to see NiP play. They want to see Na'Vi play. They want to see Fnatic play. They want to see the best players play. And a lot of them don't get a chance to see them on home soil play in big tournaments. So I think that whatever crowd goes, they'll go for all of the days. They'll stay and watch all the finals and the semifinals, and they'll cheer for the teams they like once the NA teams are out of the tournament, whoever their next favorite is. Everyone who's a Cloud9 fan is a fan of a European team once Cloud9's out of the tournament. I'm pretty sure of that. Most of these guys are CSGO fans. Also, in general, aside from, unfortunately, what happened at Katowice, I've actually generally found CSGO fans are much better for being fans of multiple teams than pleb League of Legends fans who are like, I only like TSM, and if TSM go out, fuck everyone else, I wouldn't watch two Korean teams play. There's not that many people like that in CSGO from my experience. Most people can appreciate greatness and want to watch the best teams play and then get the enjoyment of that. So I agree with you, by the way. The way the draws come out, no NA team's probably making it out. Like the best chance...
Liquid? Best chance?
I think Liquid is...
They're in a group with FaZe,
the best chance.
Splice.
Liquid is just the best chance, because the key point to make is, since there's a best of 3 for second place, Liquid could get out if they win a best of 3 over FaZe. Now, that's not impossible. That could happen.
Not impossible. But it is of course, Liquid with Adren.
Sure.
So which again, not to bring Jenny back in with no wounds.
Do it for Jenny. Do it for Jenny.
Yeah, do it for Jenny. Just
got that little one on the way. You want your child to grow up and be like, my father used to be a 5K decoy grenade. Or do you want him to say, my father in his last tournament got out of groups, then got utterly ploughed in the round of 8. Ultimately, fairly meaningless, but at least he didn't shit the bed on every one of those majors. P.S. Jenny, what did happen to Eric, whatever. I don't know.
Eric Jr. That's what you're talking about.
Whatever. Yeah, why not?
Whatever, mate.
Well, I like to imagine, what would his son actually be called? What would his son actually be called?
I don't know. Maybe he could do like one of those, like sort of hood names, and it would be like Decoy. Yeah. Like that.
No,
like
Devon. Maybe he'll just call his son Major, because he'd always wanted to spend more time around the majors.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like it. Both good. Both good. Obviously, coming up with this off the cuff, can't all be grade A. Is this thing on? Tough crowd. So anyway, I noticed NIP got another fucking easy group.
Yeah, I don't know. Listen, I mean, it goes without saying NIP players sold their soul to the devil on sort of a political statement, but also the fact that they keep together in this mad Faustian pact of like, should we get better players? I kind of like the money these pleb fans are giving us. Yeah, but what about the results? I mean, we haven't had any results in a long time. 87-0, though. That was like 3 years ago at this point in time. They still bring it up, though. Yeah, but don't we want to, as like professionals, be able to respect ourselves and know we play for a top quality team? And you're like, no, I'm just kidding. It's NIP. Pass me that sticker money. Skrillex!
So I mean, yeah, but they're going to make it into the round of 8, obviously.
If you want to know what happened to Freiburg, guys, basically he can't play CS anymore that well because his arms are actually mad injured from repetitive strain injury from lifting up that sick, dirty, repulsive 87-0 pleb fan money from the hats and the chocolate and the in artificial insemination devices that they sell-from NIP. And so as a result, his arms are really tired when he comes to play.
They
so
are like
the king of the banana inside you.
You know, you know, and like you get fucking like Conor McGregor's doing it now. Like I'm obviously wearing a Conor McGregor t-shirt, merchandise everywhere, and it does feel like NIP. It's like you've got burgers, you've got chocolate. Like it's a matter of time before it's like, you know, the NIP tampon. Like it's just where are we at? Banana shaped tampons. There you go.
Well, no, the obvious joke is the obvious joke is if they really were that smart, NIP would also have sold like fuck NIP t-shirts.
Well, you missed the opportunity there to do the joke where it's like I've just gone, Freiburg, you know, the Freiburg themed, you know, NIP tampons, and you were going to go, well, I always thought that NIP were stuck up cunts. That's what you were supposed to say, but you didn't do it, so you fucking ruined it. Ruined the line.
I would have said the other way, which is that it's been a long time since Freiburg saw any blood on the walls. Not bad.
Good, mate. So anyway, so that was Group A, NIP, Luminosity, mousesports, Flipside. Pretty sure we can say NIP and Luminosity are going to go through. Slight chance for mousesports. I don't think Flipside are going to do anything in that group, but, you know, whatever. And then in C and D, we had EnVyUs, Astralis, Gambit, and CLG. I mean, fuck CLG's life. I think there's not really, I mean, there should be EnVyUs and Astralis. I don't give Gambit much credence. Then again, I wrote them off at the last event we did, where they got to go to the major, where they qualified. And you know, I definitely can't see them beating the likes of Astralis and EnVyUs, even though I think they did particularly well. Group D for me, probably the most interesting group. Na'Vi, Virtus.pro, G2, and Cloud9. Virtus.pro in a horrific slump at the moment. Like if you look at their ESL Pro League form, I think they've won 1 game out of 14. Yeah. I think somebody worked it out. It was like some Reddit thread where it was like they've lost like 28 of the last 30 games or something retarded. Like it was a phenomenal bad run. So a lot of people are saying, well, you know, Virtus.pro aren't going to be coming into the major, but I don't think you can ever count Virtus.pro out at a major. I think
plus, look at the bright side. They got Cloud9.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the pick-me-up that you need, right?
Yeah. If ever times are hard, but you know, I think Na'Vi are favourites, but I think there's a chance G2 in their current form could sneak through that group. I think they're going to get to play Virtus.pro potentially, while Virtus.pro are mortal, and as you say, Cloud9 are going to be the whipping boys, and that's why I just think overall, and I'm going to back FaZe to get out of the groups with Fnatic as well. I don't think we have an NA team going into the stadium,
especially,
which is a shame.
Yeah.
But yeah, sorry, you were going to say especially.
I mean, especially in Group D, the one that I actually think has the least chance overall is Cloud9. Now, I say that in light of the fact that Splice is in Group B, because I've already talked about Splice as much as I want to. I will only be talking about them as they lose 2 best-of-1s, go out of the tournament, and then I will hopefully never speak about them ever again. They will all die in unmarked graves. They will not be remembered by history. They will be but a passing dust in the wind that will blow into a little kid's eye, and he'll say, no one likes dust. It'll be a reference point to the original map in Counterstrike. Good night.
Good night.
Soliloquy for Splice there.
It's pretty good. It touched me. So let's do the final topic I wanted to talk about. We go back to Brazil.
Yeah.
Back to Brazil. FNX.
Yeah. There
was very compelling, convincing evidence that it was in possession of some sort of VAC banned account. It's on his ESL profile, and people have synced up the usernames at certain times and the ID of it, and everyone's like, well, hang on a minute. If you have a VAC ban, you don't get to play in majors, and you don't get to play in all these tournaments, and it needs to be looked at. Now, blew up, obviously. Reddit invoked their witch hunting rule, which I think is a little, you know, I actually think the global offensive subreddit's pretty well modded as a rule. But I think when there is evidence, I think the community has to have the discussion. Yes, I've been on the receiving hand of social media mobs many fucking times. It sucks. It sucks if you haven't done anything. It sucks if you're innocent. You know, and very often, because people are morons, the lie becomes the truth. You know, there's so many fucking lies that are just out there in the public domain about me. You know, like, I'll never change them. I'll never alter that perception. I've just got to live with that being what people think about me. But this seemed pretty compelling to me. You know, I haven't had time to get on it. I've been working on some other stories. But what I don't understand is why haven't Luminosity just come out and been like, oh, okay, yeah, it's a VAC ban, but it's for like Team Fortress 2 or whatever the fuck. You know, why are we? And then Valve could be like, yeah, when we've looked at the account and it's fine. Why have this uncertainty? This is like a 30-minute fix.
Kind of convenient though, isn't it? Because remember, Luminosity are such sticklers for sportsmanship and being fair and stuff that Team Liquid are total scum for being totally within their rights not to take place in a scenario with a replay situation. But Luminosity and their fans, who are incredibly judgmental, don't seem to have any problem with the fact that one of their players may have cheated and actually been caught by the in-game anti-cheat.
Now here's the thing. If it's like, and again, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, if you've ever said the phrase once a cheater, always a cheater, again, you're a moron, fuck you. You don't get to come to the big boys table and have an educated debate. If it's a 1.6 ban, I don't care. We're talking about CSGO. If it's a source ban, I don't care. We're talking about CSGO. If it's a CSGO ban, that's a fucking problem, because we've handed out severe penalties to other people for having these bans. We've ended fledgling careers based on this. We currently have a zero tolerance policy in our community, as trickling down from Valve, that if you get caught cheating in CSGO and you get a VAC ban, and only a VAC ban, no other form of bans, you know, not even when it's blatantly obvious in some cases, but if you get a VAC ban in CSGO, you can never compete at the majors, you can never be, you know, at the big boys table. So we've done that, right? That's what we say. And we say it's one chance and then a lifetime ban. So this needs to be looked at. This is a team that we've just said top 3 in the world. And the longer we leave it without anybody looking into it and getting a definitive answer one way or the other, the worse it's going to get. And I'm sick of this culture of let's just all put our head in the sand and the money will keep coming in and we'll just keep counting it and it'll all be okay. That's not how you preserve competitive integrity. That's not how you make a scene truly great. Because here's the thing. If it is a CSGO VAC ban, and if we're going to be consistent in our application of the rules, and we're going to take a player and make it so we can't play in Luminosity anymore, and we're going to completely wreck and ruin a top 3 team in the world as things stand right now, surely that's going to prompt people to look at this insanity of one chance, life ban. Bullshit. That's worse than the 3 strikes rule in America. It makes no fucking sense. And it would need to be looked at. But again, we need a commissioner. There's got to be somebody over at Valve who's seen those threads. There's got to be somebody that's thought, hang on a minute, might want to have a look at this. We're about to give this guy some sick Skrilla, some fucking sticker money, prize money. I don't think they can win a fucking major. I'm not like Ryu, who thinks Luminosity are going to win a major. Like, obviously, recovering drug addict or something, but I love him dearly. But, you know, like, this has got to be looked at, right? This has got to be looked at. Somebody has got to fucking step up and just, I don't know, 5 minutes, surely you just, hi, I'm Valve. I've got access to your account. Yeah, it's a VAC ban in CSGO. We're going to release a statement. You can't play at the major. That's it. That's like an afternoon's work. What the fuck could be more important than that with a major around the corner? I'm asking.
I know. I mean, there's obviously nothing. This is an example, though, of where, like, Valve would just say the same old shit. They say, well, you have to understand the amount of people we have working on CSGO right now. It's not like the largest thing. We're trying to recruit people, and they're like, yeah, all right, mate. How many more millions than you thought you were going to make off the game do you have to make before you could look into this one thing for me? Probably like 700 million. Okay, got you the 700 million. See, I said 700 million. What I actually meant was, like, I'll maybe put the majors up to like $1.1 million. Is that enough for you? And here's a new light blue USPS. Is that enough? Is that enough for you there? Oh, and also I've made the round timer 2.5 seconds longer for no reason. Goodbye.
And here's the thing, right? If right now you're a Brazilian fan and you think that what we're doing is ripping on this team, you've got to listen to what we're saying. I know that's not your strong suit sometimes. You've got to listen to what we're saying. We don't want to condemn FNX. We want to clear his name. That's what we want. I don't want a top 3 team in the world having their reputation tarnished because of suspected cheating. I don't want that. Sims, I don't want it for Fnatic with all those dubious flusha clips. I don't want it for Luminosity. I don't want their great story, how after people kindly donated money and they got to this tournament and now look where they are. I don't want that fucking sullied and soured because it's one of the great fucking stories in Counterstrike, and I like Counterstrike. So I want somebody to come out and clear his name. And Valve can do that. And Luminosity could do that. And Stony fucking silent. And that's not good, because this isn't a story that's going to go away. This isn't something you can kill with silence. People are suspicious. People will bring this up every time. And if it comes out that he's been allowed to go to tournaments with a VAC ban in CSGO, and win tournaments and win prize money and earn sticker money, the community will be rightly fucking outraged.
And the same Luminosity was all over Twitter on every other issue. All those players tweeting in fucking Portuguese and telling everyone blah, blah, blah. Oh, and if you come to it in Brazil, we would do it this way. How would you do it? What would you do if someone was cheating in Brazil? Would you just do nothing about it and say nothing? Would you? Are you all pussies? Or are you actually going to do something about it? Like, by the way, I'm not joking. If it turns out that FNX has actually got this on his account and Luminosity does nothing and they wait 6 months for Valve to find it, assuming it ever happens, then Luminosity should take their beats as well. Because if they really care about all this, they should, even if he's guilty, they should actually come out and say, yeah, we found out, unfortunately, this is the case. We're helping with the investigation, blah, blah, blah. You're gonna have sorry, Luminosity. What you have to do is bite the bullet and look into this yourselves and then maybe reveal anything you found. Because you know what? It's all good to talk the talk, but sometimes you got to show it when you're actually like in person on LAN. That's what I found.
Yeah. And you know, look, if it's true, I don't even think that even if this is a VAC ban in CSGO on that account, and FNX did have it and did control it, I don't think they're cheating. I think their success is completely legitimate. But unfortunately, rules are rules. And we can either use this as a platform to start talking about what kind of rules we want in our fucking community and what we want to do and the madness of one mistake lifetime bans. And we can use it as a platform because believe me, I think the Brazilian fans will be hugely supportive of looking at that now, if it is true. But, you know, if it isn't a VAC ban on CSGO, this just needs to be clarified. I don't want to go into the biggest major in our game's history and have any fucking question marks about any fucking player. This has to be clarified. And Luminosity, again, I know some pros watch the VODs of this show. I urge you to fucking prove one way or the other that this either is an account with a CSGO VAC ban that belonged to FNX and it was a mistake and it contextualize it, or it isn't, and we can just forget the whole debate. It's not going to go away. It's not going to go away. It's out there now. So anyway, that's the show. A little bit longer, but we had lots to talk about. And we are going to do a show again on Wednesday, I believe. We're going to get back to the regular schedule. So hopefully something happens between them. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I forgot because I bailed out on that event. So I just simply can't do it. Well, okay. We'll work something out. We will do a show, though, at some point.
Probably towards the end of the week, I assume.
Yeah, all right. Okay, cool. So just before we end the show, bit of news. I may as well throw this out here now. I'm going to be leaving by the numbers. The relationship of me and Duncan, the package, it will be coming to an abrupt end at the end of the month. It's been an amazing run. It's been an amazing show. I've enjoyed every second of it. Our reference games are incredibly on point. And we've had a lot of fun, but I will be entering a new chapter in my life around about that time, and it will be a chapter that will preclude me from doing this show. So I wanted to let you guys know in advance, because we probably got 2 or 3 episodes before then, Here's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing a special show for our final show. And that is, we are going, and this is an open invitation, and I've already messaged him about it, GB James to come on the final episode of By the Numbers as it stands with the package. Now, don't worry. The show's still going to go on. Alphadraft is still committed to making this show. Duncan's not going anywhere. Trust me, he loves the Skrilla more than any man I've ever seen. There will be a replacement host. There will be somebody else. And from what I understand, I think it's going to be pretty good. I think you're going to be happy with it. I think they'll be more than capable of filling my shoes. But we will have GB James on the final show, provided he accepts it and comes on. And it's an open invitation just to show that there's no beef between us. We're going to have a lot of fun. And ultimately, I just want to end on a show that makes our dick hard. That's what I want to do. So any final thoughts from you, Dunk?
No, I mean, I'm looking forward to that. That's a few weeks away, obviously.
Yeah, looking forward to me leaving the show, you mean? Brilliant.
Everything, yeah. All the new shit, moving on to new shit.
Gonna miss you too.
I mean, we'll leave all the goodbyes till the last episode.
Yeah.
There's sentimental shit then. I think that'll be a good show. Sadly, we can't have the show on the regular day next week, but I think because that event's only 2 days, that we can get it done towards the end of the week, so we can still stay on the schedule of doing a show a week and get back to regular approach. And yeah, I'm looking forward to Counterpit, looking forward to the next episode.
All right, well, have you got any content coming up between now and Croatia?
Not much, because I've only got a few days going on, but I'll have some videos recorded that I'll release over that period of time.
Okay, well, looking forward to seeing those. Thanks for coming aboard the show, as always, every week. I know it's a bit of a chore. We don't usually do shows on Sunday, so thanks for giving up the latter part of your weekend, Duncan. We can't do the show without you. Sam, thanks very much for producing the show. Alphadraft, thank you for continuing to endorse edgy content. The edgiest content of all. We really pushed the envelope in this one. But anyway, if you want to support Alphadraft in the same way they've supported me and Duncan, that's going to be easily done. You just go to alphadraft.com, you sign up, you can do fantasy drafting, you can pick players that are good, you can pick players that are bad, you can do whatever you want, and basically win money for doing so. So please do that. Please show Alphadraft some support, because this has been a wonderful show to be part of, and we've got a few more good episodes in us left. So without any further ado, I'm going to say goodbye. Thanks to everyone for watching, and until we see you next time, may all your drafts be alpha. Peace.